Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome along to round 7 of the 2014 UltraNet Supercup. Last year may not have been the most exciting race, but we haven't had a round that has failed to produce so far, and here in Canada, there's a threat of rain in the air, and there are plenty of surprises that could be coming our way. My name's James Kirk here as always, and alongside me, once again, is my man with the hair, it's Lewis McGlade, and we're looking at the end of free practice now, just about to go into qualifying, and, well, the doom and gloom of the impending weather doesn't seem to be dampening positive sim racing spirits. A 1-2 for them, with Fran Lopez leading as well. Is this the revival we've all been waiting for?
Yeah, you see, Fran, obviously last round, 2 weeks ago, Fran was fighting for that win in that first race against Sven de Vries, an impressive performance from Fran Lopez to show, he's here to fight for those kind of wins. Obviously, in his debut in Super Cup back in Spain, things didn't go quite according to plan, but he's obviously worked that up and has done this 20.1. I think it's the fastest time we've seen on the server on the build up to this event. So Fran Lopez is really showing that he's got some good form for this track. We're about to move on to the qualifying session. And it's a difficult circuit. Obviously, with that threat of rain, hopefully we're not going to have the kind of rain that's out of my window at the moment because it's very heavy. But rain, obviously, looking at Indianapolis last season, when we had our American round, the rain really spiced up Super Cup. So hopefully we might have something like that for this evening's entertainment.
I would say that the rain spiced up the Canadian race as well, if not for the opening 10 laps. And then after that, there were so little people driving that there was very little racing to be had. Only 13 finishers last year. Not really as bad as what Monaco provided, but 13 points finishes only is still a pretty stark number. Hopefully we'll have a bit better for this year. Two more surprises though in the top 10 come in the form of Jonathan Holmes, who's at Multiforce GP, his debut in the Super Cup for this year, replacing Menno Clont, not Patrick Gatewood. Menno's off doing something else, I believe. P5 by the end of free practice. And Terence Gretsch, who's on the front row of the grid in Formula Challenge just yesterday evening, returns with Centurion. And, well, you don't need to look at the table much to see that Multiforce is underperforming, Centurion is really struggling, and if those two are able to place those kinds of positions in the two races that we have coming up this evening, that'll be a huge boost, and especially from the reserve drivers, if you will.
Okay, we've just been told there's a little bit of dampness offline. I do see it. It's about 3% wetness offline, which it shouldn't be too much of an impact if you just keep on your marks. But yeah, about Jono Holmes, he's obviously, he came into Formula Challenge with everyone thinking that this was the guy that was going to win races, and we've done 14 races so far this season of Formula Challenge, and he's still not won one. I think from what I've seen of him, he does better in the faster vehicles. We've seen this from quite a lot of drivers as Fran Lopez starts his first lap. He might do better in this than he has in Formula Challenge because of the pace of the car. Some people just react better with a faster car. Even though they're all equal, it's just different environment, different way of driving the vehicles because of that speed differential.
I mean, looking here at Fran Lopez as well, this is very much another he's really come on leaps and bounds since first entering Formula Challenge this year. The fact of the matter is that he's not battling for the wins or podiums in races in Formula Challenge, yet here he is, coming out of free practice session on top, as well as with the fastest time of the entire build-up to this event. I can't understand it. Personally, I'm a guy who prefers the higher traction and more grip of Formula Challenge and all that sort of stuff, the traction control, the ABS. But you're right, some people are the complete opposite, and Jonathan Holmes has to be credited, scored Super League points on his debut in Monaco just 2 weeks ago. And yeah, what can you say? The proof is in the pudding. And Fran Lopez comes through the final chicane, doesn't hit the World Champions, in fact stays very wide of it, and comes across the line to provide our first lap time of the evening, a 1:20.9, still 8 tenths to go before we hit the fastest as Kevin Siggy, his teammate, overtakes him on a 120.8, and then is deposed once again by Jason Muscat of Adonis Engineering at 120.7, your provisional pole time.
Yeah, about this though, it takes a couple of laps to get these tyres up to temperature. That's what I found in Formula Challenge. You just need a few laps in these cars to get them to the right zone and to get into the flow of the track. It's quite difficult. You won't see these fast times until people have done a 3 or 4 lap stint, which you'll see quite a lot in this. People will do this 3 or 4 lap stint, and then may return to the pit lane, get some fresh rubber, and try once again with that kind of stint. But Fran Lopez currently sitting in P4. This is the driver that is coming along quite a lot. I've driven with Fran quite a lot from Porsches to Formula Challenge, and I remember being around where he was on a couple of events, and now he's just blasted off to the front of the grid. This guy is getting a lot quicker. It seems to be almost every event. And that's just the way he seems to be working with his cars. Obviously, fighting with the win back in Monaco, losing it, I think, on the last couple of laps to the end.
Last lap.
Yeah, I think it was the last lap, wasn't it? So Fran is really one to look out for as he comes towards the line to finish his second lap. And is this going to move him further up? Yes, it does. 20.551 puts himself back onto provisional pole position.
Another name which I'd like to give a shout out to is Pavel Loknovsky. We thought he was only going to be in for one round. Turns out he's looking like FA's permanent replacement driver. We were talking about the likes of either Mark Wicks or Fran Lopez, who filled in the FA cars in Spain, either taking over the seat. Pavel's come in, and he's doing a great job as well. And personally, I think he's a huge addition to the championship because he's always there, always in the top 10, always looking for more. And although he messes up turns 7 and 8, 8 and 9, pretty poorly there, unfortunately. He's definitely a driver that you want to have around you, a great battler, a great fighter, and always making sure that he gives you good points, and that's exactly what FA needs, as they've been a bit off the boil since Parker left.
Yeah, it's good to see Pavel back in the car. Obviously, as you alluded to, we thought this was only going to be he was only going to be in for one round, which was Monaco, to try and defend that race winning. Obviously, taking the race win a year ago on the streets of Monte Carlo, and he wanted to come back and have another go. And it seems like maybe that addiction's come back, and he just wants to have another go. And next round we go to in Austria, is another track that he's pretty good at. I think Jason Muscat is on a pretty good lap. He probably dropped a bit in the second sector from what I can see on live races. So we'll watch him as he crosses the line as Oskari Kanter moves himself up into P3. Jason Muscat moves himself up into P1 by 0.003 of a second.
And Jason Muscat looking for his first pole position of the year. It will be Adonis Engineering's third pole position of the year. And Adonis Engineering actually in pole position, in terms of poles, they've been on a real roll recently. They didn't take a pole position until Spain. And then suddenly they had pole position with Oskari Kanter in Spain, pole position with Oskari Kanter in Monaco. And this will complete a hat-trick of poles if Jason Muscat is going to hold on. But those positive boys,
very quick.
They are looking really good, aren't they?
Yeah, they are really. We all kind of like an underdog. As Philip Pushka on his return, obviously he wasn't there back in Monaco, if I recall correctly. He moved himself up into P1 on a 20.296. The thing was with Oskari Kanter, although he took that pole position, he did not score a point at Monaco. He has really got to push this round to try and regain that championship lead, which was given to Sven de Vries, who is currently in the position below, and he's got a lot of points to make up. He lost so much in Monaco. We were talking to him after the race. He was trying to build a 2-second gap, and it didn't quite work out for him, as he crashed into the wall. As I see another name on his return in Supercup, Alex Cooper puts himself up into P2.
I was going to make a bit of a feature for Cooper because I thought, well, he's left the championship now and Siggy's only 2 points behind. He's probably going to fall out the top 10, so it's worth disregarding him. Not so. He comes in to replace, at least for this round, Tom Parker, who we previously mentioned had taken the Englishman's or his compatriot's seat at Simcraft. And P2 is great on his return. I think the problem with Cooper is that he just never really felt at home, did he? He never really felt like he was doing much, or his races were unlucky, or just loads of things going against him. If he gets a good result here, do you think that's going to be enough to convince him to come back full time maybe with another team, or do you think he's settled into the reserve role now?
Well, quite possibly. I've got it just on live race at the moment as he's only a tenth down. He was, purple in the first sector and lost a little bit in the second sector, but obviously we saw that from Muscat as well. Cooper, he could be one to look out for on events. We've seen him with flashes of good pace on previous occasions and not really having too good in the race as he returns to the pit lane. Obviously, as I was saying about this, they're going in and out for a few lap stints. It's 7 minutes to go in this session, so now is the perfect time to come into the pits about halfway through the session, get some fresh rubber, get some fresh fuel, and out you go once again. But yeah, maybe this could be good for Cooper, but Philip Pushka currently holding that pole position by 0.2 of a second. Quite an impressive feat at the moment. However, we know these drivers can go about 0.2 faster than that, so, or at least Fran Lopez can. So where are we going to see people go in this qualifying session? As Alex Cooper kind of gets in the way of Kevin Siggy there on the exit of turn 2.
Yeah, well, let's go through your top 10 as they are now. So it's Pushka, Cooper, Muscat, Lopez, Siggy, Gagzella into the top. Oh, wow. Sorry, Gagzella just improves there into P5 for Storm Racing. Looking pretty good as the Romanian with Siggy then down to 6. Canton in 7th. Championship leader, De Vries in 8th. Gaia, who's been our foreman in recent times, in 9th.
Oh, he's made a mistake.
Won a race last time out in Monaco with a reverse grid, but didn't score in race 1, unfortunately. And we'll just see whether this does improve him. No, it doesn't. He'll go on another lap. And Pavel Loknovsky rounds out the top 10. We've got 5 3/4 minutes to go. Pushka's not on the lap. Cooper's not on the lap. Oh.
I've just seen a purple sector from someone of all people, and as P6, because Kevin Siggy is also improving quite heavily. He's got the draft of his teammate, Fran Lopez. But I also saw that Patrick Gatewood's gone purple in the first sector, so that's quite an interesting thing.
Yeah.
As I'm going to keep an eye on Kevin Siggy's. He's going to come through that final chicane.
No, he's not.
No, he is not. That is a very easy thing to do, to mess up the final chicane. You've got to give that time back, because if you improve, that's going to look really dodgy.
I think Simon Smith put it best last time, just yesterday. He said that the grip levels change every single time that you go into the chicane. You never really know what you're going to come out with, or indeed go in with. So yeah, it's very easy to mess up, and Siggy just go on another lap. But yeah, Patrick Gatewood, someone who's been a bit off the boil recently. He's not really...
Sven?
Oh, Sven, sorry?
Yes, Sven. And also
well?
Pushka is improving by about 0.2 in that second sector. But keep an eye on... he's only improved a little bit.
Only one position up.
He lost a lot of time in that last sector. But we know Sven also runs a higher downforce setup. So
yeah,
that's something interesting. Keep an eye on Pushka as he runs down towards the final chicane.
Yeah, but also back to Patrick Gatewood. He actually scored 4th here, can you believe it, last time out. But he's not had a top 10 this season. And he's just really struggled this season, which is a shame, because the American, comes here every round, tries his best, and he doesn't improve this lap. But it just really shows you how much more competitive this field has gotten, and perhaps how much weaker he's become in the time off season. The fact that he's P12, whereas usually being a top 10 contender in qualifying, is rather telling, don't you think?
Yeah, I will just say something about this track. This track is an odd track. I don't really want to compare it to Monaco as a specialist track like Monaco is, because Monaco is a very, very specialist track. You'll have people that are good at Monaco and rubbish.
You'll have people that are special at Monaco.
Yeah, you'll just have people that are good at Monaco and rubbish everywhere.
Yeah.
As has been my Formula Challenge career. But here it's a very different circuit. Obviously, there's something that we found in the race when we were lining up in the race, and the car didn't feel right. Sven de Vries straight up to P1 at 20.186. So there we go. There is our current pole position holder. Over 3 minutes left in the session. Anyone could improve, so keep an eye on pretty much everyone for this session, because it seems like anyone in the top 10 can crack that pole position time. But the grip levels on this track, it's really weird. It's a very, very slippery track. And when rain gets involved, I'm sure that will become pretty insane if it gets involved through today. It is currently 1% offline wetness at the moment.
Not really enough to upset the standings, though.
No, it was a little bit higher, though. So, it's just coming down. I think it got up to about 3% offline wetness. But it's not too bad at the moment as Fran Lopez is coming down to the chicane. I don't think he's on a particularly brilliant lap at the moment. However, 2.5 minutes to go. Any time to improve.
Let's see what Lopez can do. No improvement this lap. And the positives, who were looking for a potential front row lockout, currently only occupying P5 and P7, a bit more humbling in qualifying. It's just the way it goes, I guess, and if you can't string a lap together, that is your lot. 2 minutes remain, and your top 10 is De Vries, Pushka, Cooper, Muscat, Lopez, Gagzella, Siggy, Canton, Tapper, and Gaia. I'm surprised to see Canton and Gaia so low, actually, to be honest. They're, well, they are a bit lower than we usually see them. But again, that's your lot sometimes. And I'm surprised that especially Cantonen, we were talking about this pre-race, we were expecting this to potentially be an Adonis Engineering track. They're usually ones to go with the lower downforce settings, and that should highly benefit them on the straights and maybe a bit through the corners if they're a bit more stable, but not really making much impact, are they?
Sorry, Siggy's. No, it's Fran Lopez who just had a really big mistake. Sorry if you can hear the thunderstorm as well outside. But you say that will help them in the race. It won't necessarily help them in qualifying. This is a track that you can really race on. You know, you can overtake quite a lot on this track. But in qualifying, you get the advantage on the straight, but nowhere else. And there's a lot of chicanes here where you need to carry quite a high amount of speed. That's why a good amount of downforce sometimes with this track is actually beneficial. But if you have that kind of downforce, like we know Sven de Vries does, he will be dead meat on that straight on the first 5 or 6 laps. Unless he runs away, it will be like all of the cars behind him have DRS. They will fly past.
I know that for certain because I actually ran 3 laps of the Formula Challenge race, or race 2, yesterday without a front wing. I can tell you that the speed differential compared to when I did have a front wing was rather large. As Kevin Siggy actually has popped up into P3, I noticed, and someone else had moved up. I think it was Muscat into P5.
I'm going to keep an eye on Oscar. He's messed up his final chicane. Never mind. Stop messing up that chicane, people. Good lord. But
he's just going to get across the line for one more lap.
Oscar Cantonen, he was looking good through the first and second sector. Lost it all in the third sector in that chicane. Such an easy chicane to mess up because it's so tight. It's really, really tight. The line that you have to take, Jonathan Holmes, I believe, is the one who's just moved himself up. No, it isn't. So it's Gary Tapper up into 7th position
and
as
Holmes
the time has ticked over. Yes, Holmes did go up into 9th position. But the time's ticked over. We've got everyone is on their last lap now. So we'll have to see who can improve. If anyone can.
Siggy just finished his hot lap into P2 ahead of Pushka, who's in the pits. Muscat into P4 ahead of Cooper, who's in the pits. Fran Lopez has called it a day. Dawe Tapper's going slowly. Gagzella's in the pits. And so that means the last 2 people out on track in the top 10, or the last 3, I should say, are Sven de Vries, who's on provisional pole. But it's down to Jonathan Holmes and Ascari Cantonen, I think, to be able to even try and get close. Jonathan Holmes
too much curb. Too much
curb. And that is Holmes' qualifying done and dusted. Next down the road is Sven de Vries, who's getting a nice toe off Florian Gaia. Florian Gaia actually not even in the top 10. The man who started on pole position all the way back in China and who won a race in Monaco. Let's see where he goes. No improve. Oh, yes, he does. He improves into P9. Sven de Vries. Oh, wow. Sven de Vries. Oh,
wow.
119.9.
Wow.
Wow.
That's what that draft does on that straight.
And Ascari Cantonen, because of Gaia's improvement, does not even start in the top 10. The man who has started on pole position for the last 2 rounds is in P11. Astonishing stuff. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen, by 0.3 of a second. And with the fastest time we have seen in the entire build-up and indeed actual event of round 7 of the UltraNet Supercup, is Sven de Vries with a 199, his second pole position of the year. Kevin Siggy joins him on the front row, fantastic effort from the Austrian. And behind them, it's Philip Pushka looking to bounce back from a no-show in Monaco, and Jason Muscat in P4. Yeah,
I see Pavel Noski also down in P13. He probably won't be too happy with that, considering some of his pre-event pace, from what I saw, looked pretty good. So there's a lot of work from some people. The main person who I'm a little bit shocked by and who has to really go to work in this race is Oscari Cannon, down in P11 after the double DNF back in Monaco. That is a lot of work that he has to do. Hopefully he's running that low downforce setup that will help him in the race, unless it rains, because then the low downforce will kill you. I'm wondering though, considering there's a little bit of threat of rain, is anyone from there running a compromised setup that would work in the rain? Mostly with Parc Ferme in effect for the first race this evening. Who's going to be running maybe a slightly compromised setup just if it transitions from a dry to a wet race, as we saw back in Indianapolis last season. Who's gonna be running that compromised setup?
Potentially Canton.
Well, with that kind of qualifying position, it's kind of like if he has and it starts to rain, then he could be looking pretty good. But these are assumptions. We know nothing as to what the setup they're running, so it could have just been a messed up and balked qualifying session. He was running a good lap until he messed up in the final chicane, and it's something that these drivers just they need to go to work in this race, especially Oskari Kantonen. It's going to be an interesting first race. Hopefully, obviously, with this track and the nature of it opening up to some decent racing, we shall see if Oskari Kantonen can move himself further up the field and hopefully not bin it into a wall this time.
Should be also said, we're expecting only one stop for this race, as opposed to the 2 stops which we've been seeing, and even a 3 stop back all the way in Malaysia in some cases. Not really high in the tyre wear is Canada. And so I expect to see people on the option tyres in race 2 as well. Let's take you through the championship standings as they are, though. So in the drivers, Sven de Vries leads on 198 points, 3 points ahead of Jason Muscat, who's really come on strong in recent weeks. A further 14 points behind is Oskari Kantonen, who, as Lewis said, scored no points in Monaco last time out, a real blow to his championship chances. Same goes for Philip Pushka. He didn't even turn up to Monaco last time, and as such is only on 133 points, some 50 points behind Kantonen. Tom Parker, he's not showed up this time around, and he's on 114. 10 points behind him is Gaia, who is here, but only in P9. And Menno Klont is 2 points behind Gaia, but Klont hasn't showed up, so it's all chopping and changing, and with people's personal schedules coming into effect now, your position really isn't safe, is it? Then, well, to be fair, Klont has a 30-point gap back to Emmanuel Gaxella, who's on 72. And his Formula Challenge star of yesteryear, David Tapper's only 2 points behind him now as well, and looking good in P7. And then behind Tapper is Alex Cooper, who hasn't been here for the last few rounds. Back, we don't know for how long. His results could mean nothing to the drivers, but he's on 61 anyway. In the Teams Championship, Adonis Engineering continues to pull away. They're on 300... they would have continued to pull away had Kantonen scored. They've actually lost a load of points from Monaco. They're on at 376 points, and 70 points ahead of both Satellite Racing and Simcraft. And Simcraft has really been one of those developing stories throughout the year. They started off really poorly and complete no-score in Australia, which has led to more and more progressive results. Their first pole position in China, and then Simcraft's first win in... I'm going to get this wrong now, aren't I? Where was their first win? Monaco. Was it really Monaco, their first win?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Their first win was 2 weeks ago. It says a lot, doesn't it? But they are there in third anyway. Only third because Satellite has more wins thanks to the efforts of Sven de Vries. PB is a way back now, 50 points behind on 158. And it's Street Fighter who's moved their way up into 5th. They've had a bit of a progressive season as well, on to 134. FA fallen back a bit now. They're in 6th on 132. Then Storm on 126. Multiforce in there, Subdued Year on 106. Positive Sim Racing, who are really on and up and looking to gain loads more points again on 103. But then it's another 50-point gap back to TSA, who have cleared the guys at the bottom, but it doesn't look like they're going to be getting out of 10th place in the teams anytime soon.
Yeah, I just want to talk about today and this track. And, I quite like this track, but there is one thing that I absolutely hate about it, and that is the pit lane. I really do not enjoy this pit lane.
Really?
The reason is the way it exits that, onto the second turn, it puts you on the racing line, so you're gonna probably see quite a few traffic issues as people are exiting the pit lane in the race, and the entrance to the pit lane is just asking for a crash. Not quite to the same degree as South Korea, but when you think of it, you're coming into the pit lane at a lot higher speed than people that are taking the chicane. So if you're running around with 3 or 4 other people, you're wanting to come into the pit lane, they're wanting to go around the chicane. That is accident mayhem right there. So keep an eye on the pit lane. It has been raining a little bit towards the end of the session. It's only gone up to about 2%, wetness on track. Maybe this is kind of like what we're going to be expecting through random parts of the race. It'll go up to maybe 2 or 3%. It's what we've seen throughout all of practice, and then it'll drop its way down. So, we'll just have to keep an eye on that, on the weather front, and of course what's happening within the pit lane.
Lewis McGlade, predictions for the race winner of race 1.
Oh, Muscat.
Muscat from P4.
Yeah. Yep.
I am going to go on a bit of a punt here.
Okay.
Siggy.
He's finished in the top 5 3 times this year. Well, yeah, so 3 times in the top 5 this year. His highest finish this year is 4th, if I recall correctly. So, Siggy, quite possibly, I think he'll be excited if he just gets a podium. But those positive boys have been looking mighty fast on the build-up to this event.
Indeed, they do. And looking so much more competitive now with Fran Lopez in the car. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, given that Fran is only a reserve driver at this point. But what points they can achieve are points they will gladly take. It's Sven de Vries then, his 2nd pole position of the year. And a very good one of that as well, making it the fastest time we have seen at Canada in the Supercup cars so far for his qualifying effort. Fantastic from the American. On the front row, his first front row start this year, alongside de Vries, is Kevin Siggy, the Austrian, looking to get more points for positive, who had a fantastic Monaco outing. Philip Pushka, returning after a round out at Monaco, is P3, with Jason Muscat 2nd in the championship behind de Vries, and only 3 points behind de Vries, remember, by the way. He's P4. The returning Alex Cooper, don't know for how long, but he's here nonetheless, is P5, with Fran Lopez P6 for positive. Dawe Tapas P7 for Street Fighter, with Emmanuel Gaxella P8 for Storm. Florian Geyer, our 4-man, not so much in form anymore, he's P9. And Jonathan Holmes on his debut in the Super Cup here for Multiforce, replacing Menno Klont, rounds out the top 10. Askari Kansanen, who's been on pole position for the last 2 rounds in a row, starts only P11 here today. What can he do from there? We've got Terence Gretsch in the Centurion, a great effort from the Katana Motorsports driver, that's where he is. In Formula Challenge, no, it's definitely Katana Motorsports. In Formula Challenge, he was on the front row of Formula Challenge last evening, and he's there in P12, a pretty good effort for him. Pavel Loknowski's P13 with FA once again, with Patrick Gatewood P14 in the Multiforce. With Matt Richards for TSA, Mikko Jakinen 16th for Scuderia Basilia, Ari Niemanen P17 for Mazurek. Roy Verzil actually makes his debut in the Super Cup for Fox Racing. A bit inconsistent is Roy, so we'll see how he does in the Fox Racing car. Adrian McNaughton a bit lower than usual. This is the Storm Racing driver from Britain. He's only P19, and Santiago Niza, who is looking good in free practice, only starts P20 for SRS. Mike Bell's P21 for Mazurek. Yuri Ogiano's P22 for Scuderia Basilia. Brandon Warren's P23 for Satellite. Thomas Jacobs, surprisingly low, but starting on the prime tyres in P24. Sandeep Choda making his Super Cup debut for PD Racing. We then have the 2 Waters of Olli Pelkonen, who's coming in for this round only. Mike Schroten in P27 for this round only. And Christoph Lichtenstein rounds off the grid for Fox Racing in P28.
Yeah, it's we've got 41 laps ahead of us around the track, which should be an interesting race, and we'll have to see who's going to move their way up as we're all getting lined up for the race.
In the style of French, we have trois, quatre, and cinq lights, and here we go, Canada, Montreal. We are off and away, and there's a decent start. Oh, Kevin Siggy, he's knocked down. Oh, and Muscat went to the back of him, and oh, what a terrible start from Siggy. Sven de Vries well off into the lead, though Pushka isn't far behind. Alex Cooper up to P3, and everyone's...
Oh,
Siggy. Well, that was poor, and poor old Dawe Tapper is destroyed on his first turn. That's a real shame for him, and Jason Muscat missing a front wing from going into the back of Siggy, so that's your choice for the race winner, pretty much out of it already as well. Sven de Vries though leads from Pushka. Cooper up into 3rd. Siggy and Lopez, not too sure about their starts. They're 4 and 5 though. Muscat is 6th. But oh my word, Askari Canton's up into 6 already. What a great start from him. Emmanuel Gaxella will inherit P7. Matt Richards up into P8. Great start from him. Florian Geyer P9, and Jonathan Holmes will hold on to P10 though. He's under heavy pressure from Terence Gretsch. Up with Sven de Vries now. Him and Philip Pushka have pulled out already a 2nd and a little bit at that away from the field, and Pushka's going to try and get a better exit out to the hairpin, but he's just about to hold on, but it's here down the Casino Straight, which is the primary overtaking position here on this track. Sven de Vries goes ultra defensive already, and Philip Pushka will have to go to the outside. He's going to have to try and take him around the outside of the final chicane here. Sven de Vries is the inside line though, and he holds on just about, both of them going through nicely. And so, at the end of an eventful lap one, it's de Vries leading from Pushka, Siggy, Lopez, Canton and Gagzella, Richards, Geyer and Jonathan Holmes rounding out your top 10 as de Vries defends into turn 2.
Yeah, I see Matt Richards having to defend from Florian Geyer, who's looking to work his way up through the field. Obviously, after taking that race win back on the streets of Monte Carlo, he's looking to repeat a decent result here in Canada. So keep an eye on him, see where he's going to come through. Oscar Canton, fantastic start. Shame about Jason Muscat, but Fran Lopez is now trying to attack his teammate and move himself up further through the field.
Well, no doubt Siggy would have sustained damage from Jason Muscat rear-ending him, and that was a poor. It was as if Kevin missed the lights completely.
Yeah, really wasn't good. I'm not really sure. I won't judge what happened in turn 1 until I've seen multiple replays of it. So I'll keep opinions to oneself about what happened through the turn 1, turn 2 section. It's the way it turns back on itself. It can get a bit dodgy. I think Fran Lopez is going to get a really good drive in comparison to Kevin Siggy out of this final chicane. So keep an eye on the move from those two down into the final chicane. Keep an eye also on Philip Pushka, who's closing right up to the back of Sven de Vries. He's on the inside.
No, he's not.
Quite make a move.
Let's have a look to Fran Lopez, though. He's trying to... Oh, Fran! Oh, my word! That's a cut. And to be fair, Siggy actually misses the chicane as well. So positive, not really positive about the chicane, and this might help and benefit Ascari Cantu, who's going to look to the outside of turn 1, around the outside. Oh, and that was a good save, mind you. Looking to the outside of Lopez, but
Siggy got a big slide.
Yeah, those two boys from the positive camp are not exactly the friendliest racers around, and Canton will have to try pretty hard and be a bit brutish, I think, if he wants to get past.
Yeah, I mean these two. I think Siggy was in the car back in WSS this track, and these two both show very aggressive driving styles. They will defend aggressively, they will attack aggressively, as we've seen from Fran Lopez back in Monaco with the Sven de Vries move in race 2. It's these guys attack and defend very aggressively and will hold every single thing that they can have. And yes, I've seen that. Yes.
Yeah, I tell you what, this situation is reminding me of a certain WSS race where de Vries was leading and he was hounded by another driver behind him, and Pushka has not been outside 5/10 of de Vries and is looking the infinitely better driver. He's as we head down into the final chicane around the outside of the final chicane.
Wow.
Oh, what a lovely move from Philip Pushka, the German. Right back on form. He is here to show his intent, but Sven de Vries is not going to give up the lead that easily. Into turn 1 we go, and Sven de Vries around the outside of turn 1. What a lovely way to respond from the American. And, well, battle is certainly commenced between these two. Excellent driving.
Yeah, I think it's the differential on setup. I will go have a look at their top speeds on the next lap and just have a quick peek at what's going on in those cars. I think Sven de Vries obviously running that high downforce setup, as we saw. His first sector when he took before he took pole position was 3/10 faster than anyone else who'd set the person who'd set pole position at the time. But he dropped off a lot through the second and third sectors. So I think he's going to be running a higher downforce setup, will Sven de Vries, as we've seen on previous occasions, but I will hold judgment on that. We've seen that before as well. But Philip Pushka is looking like a very quick driver at the moment. He's looking like he wants to return to the Supercup and give himself his 3rd win of the season. So just keep an eye on Philip Pushka.
It's hard to believe that his last win was all the way back in Australia with that double win. No, it wasn't.
That was Bahrain.
Bahrain.
Yes.
James' mind goes blank.
Look at that defensive driving from Sven de Vries right over to the inside of the track. See if Philip Pushka can pull the same kind of move. He doesn't.
I tell you what's a good thing that these drivers' minds aren't going blank, is that you need proper concentration to be able to keep your mind about you. As I see Ascari Canton and then in the background has gotten past Fran Lopez. That move did seem to be coming. As the positive guys, as I say, they've been looking a bit twitchy, especially Fran. And Canton is through into P5. Then the next target on his hit list will be Kevin Siggy, P11 to P4. That'd be quite an achievement in itself, and we're only 5 laps into this race.
Yeah, he's going to be looking to move himself further up through the field, and maybe move himself up into a podium contention position. He's only 3.5 seconds off the lead, and we've seen Ascari Canton, especially when two people are battling out at the front of the field. How much another driver can close right up to the back of that. So we'll have to keep an eye on Oscar Canton and see if he's actually got the pace in this car throughout the race. Obviously, with being the sole Adonis Engineering driver running within the points at the present moment in time, Jason Muscat down in 22nd position. I've seen Pavel Loknovsky is also down in 26th. Not really sure what's happened to him. It's not been a good evening for those two so far. But hopefully things will change once again down the back straight. See if Philip Pushka, I think he's a little bit too far off the back of Sven de Vries at the moment. Philip Pushka to make a move. He's still going to have a little look.
Yeah, just to sight out the braking zone, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
And we'll keep an eye. The thing is the case with...
Oh, Alex Cooper jumped the chicane.
Yeah, Alex Cooper's been... I saw he's been losing a lot of speed recently. And look behind him as well. Cantonen is going to look on the inside of turn 1 to Kevin Siggy. Siggy brakes very late. Oh, Fran Lopez, where did he come from? That was very, very bold of Lopez. And the Spaniard, make a little bit of wheel nudging on the edge of turn 2, but heading into turn 3.
Yeah, 3.
It's, they're still going side by side, but Cantonen just able to hold ahead. And this will be doing wonders for Fran's teammate Kevin Siggy, as Canton has to keep his eyes and ears behind him. And keep an eye for Manuel Gagzella there in the background as well. He's P7 and not too far behind. Yeah,
we've seen Gagzella with a couple of 2 aggressive moves back in Spain from what I recall, and costing himself. And I think it was Philip Pushka back then, actually. A large number of positions. Was it Parker?
It was Parker.
Yeah.
Who was in
yes, of course, Parker in race 2 with their 2 dueling. So Cantonen's got on the grass a little bit of the hairpin and has gone deep. That means Manuel Gagzella's going to get through, but I think he's going to have to drive through.
But I'm also...
Yep, leaders.
I'm also looking at the leaders, though. I mean, look at Philip Pushka. We had an excellent exit out of the hairpin. Oh, whoa, that was a bit aggressive from Sven de Vries. And, well, it just about holds Pushka off, but that was a bit late to be leaving a move for a defence there. And, yeah, as you say, unfortunately, Cantonen on the grass, but he's able to keep ahead of Gagzella, actually, and he's still in P6.
Yeah, it just gave him a good drive out of the final Tennessee behind Florian Guy. Has gotten past Matt Richards. He's going to try closing up to the back of Emmanuel Gagzella, as we've seen on a number of occasions this year. But yeah, Sven de Vries and Philip Pushka there, I think they're going to be close pretty much all evening, and until maybe pit stops, that might separate them out a bit. See who can out-strategize who. We also saw Sven de Vries 2 weeks ago getting out-strategized to a point by Fran Lopez, came back and got that win with a move on the last lap. So, we'll just have to see what's going to happen strategy-wise and fuel-wise between these drivers. It needs to be perfect in the pit stops to get a win today.
The only driver who started on the prime tyre was Thomas Jacobs. Actually, no, I think Christoph Lichtenstein and Mike Schroten. No, I'm lying. It was
Schroten's been into the pits.
Yeah, it was Lichtenstein and Jacobs, the only guys to start on primes. And they are only P16 and P20, so no doubt they'll probably move up into the points for a short while. But the effect on this race won't be that huge. We look to Philip Pushka now. Rides onto the back of Sven de Vries once again. And is he going to try around the outside? I think he's got a great exit and he's got a great chance into the chicane. No, he doesn't. De Vries, good defending again, but you can tell
he'll have a good
is
run
simmering.
to turn 1. He'll have a good run to turn 1 because that compromised De Vries' chicane. So hopefully on the inside into turn 1, Philip Pushka's going to pull out.
Here we go.
Oh, lag. Lots of lag.
And thankfully, no harm done. And Sven de Vries holds ahead, nevertheless. But you can just tell Pushka's just sitting there, isn't he? And he's almost trying to pressure De Vries into a mistake. Not that De Vries makes mistakes very often. It's why he's able to hold the lead of the championship at 198 points up to this point. But Pushka is a smart driver. And it's a shame that he missed out last round because he was one of our 4 championship protagonists entering the European season. European, we're in Canada, aren't we? But we'll say that it's he's a smart driver and he knows what he's doing, and no doubt he'll be trying to just unnerve De Vries. And I'm sure De Vries, through his mind, will be thinking, "This happened to me in WSS in just last week, in fact, with Eric Strana. Got to make sure it doesn't happen again." And I think it might be through the strategy in which De Vries will perhaps bite back at Pushka.
Yeah, I'm interested to keep an eye on Philip Pushka. He was close coming out of the hairpin. He's actually going to be he's going to have a nice look once again. But Philip Pushka just needs to be patient and wait for this move to open up, not to try and take the move aggressively. As you see, he's constantly having a look, waiting for that right move just to open up, and then he'll go for it. But he's just being patient with it. As in the background, Oskari Cantonen. Not sure what happened there. He hit the wall of champions, from what I recall.
Let's see. So Cantonen goes into the final chicane, and oh my word, he absolutely launched himself off the final curve. There was nothing that Gagzella was doing there, and complete innocent party. Gagzella into P6, and well, we saw this from Cantonen in Monaco actually, and it's why he double DNF'd. He's done something with the setup, or it's just the track. He's looking really, really twitchy, and his great start, no doubt, will have taken a huge hit because, well, quite literally, he would have suffered massive suspension damage from that.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of suspension damage, but perhaps citing what he feels will happen later on within this season. Maybe hitting the wall of champions could be some good luck for Oscar Cantonen in future rounds, but who knows? Who knows? We've got a long way to go in this championship. Of course, round 7, we are currently in there being 17 rounds, and recalls me to go what?
I was just having a look back, and Matt Rich just clomped the wall on the exit of turn 6. 7. I don't know. Actually, it's worth going through our other point scorers, Money. So it's Florian Guy, who's moved his way up to 8th. Jonathan Holmes into P9. Good stuff from the Englishman here on his debut. With Matt Richards P10, Terence Gretsch P11. Roy Verzil in P12.
Pushka, what happened to Pushka in the chicane? I saw him slightly sideways. I'm going to keep an eye on that.
Let's have a look.
Did he hit the wall? No, he just had a nice slide out of the final chicane. Kept it all under control, though.
And what happened to Cantonen? Cantonen into the pits, in fact.
Suspension damage, probably.
Suspension damage, yeah. And what a shame for...
Yeah, just retiring. Wow. 3rd retirement in a row for Oscar Cantonen.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yes, indeed. I don't know if he's going to be able to pull that one back, especially when Sven de Vries is running in such a strong position. I don't know why you would retire. I mean, if you've got a little bit of suspension damage, or quite a hefty amount of suspension damage, it's always better to stay out, especially in Super Cup this season, to give yourself an advantage in that second race. Remember, we've got a second race coming up this evening, which your position in this race heavily affects where you're going to start in that second race. It's what gave Florian Gaia such a victory on the streets of Monte Carlo. So that start is the race 2 is so very important as well. Obviously, the other reason, same points. They're still getting 25 points. I think someone's got a puncture. Yeah, Mike Straighten, I think, has got a puncture on the back straight in front of Sven de Vries, and Philip Pushka pulls straight into the pit lane.
But I mean, to be fair, and I know this sounds stupid, but a suspension isn't too hard to remedy if you've got slight damage. You just clonk the wall on the other side of your car and it balances out roughly.
Yeah, that will affect your speed
and
the way you turn in.
You're talking about staying out, though.
Exactly, that is the most important thing. Staying out, whatever it takes to to remedy a problem. Even driving with the wheel at 30 degrees, which is a really extreme way of holding the wheel with suspension damage. If you got that much suspension damage, there's something's going wrong. But if he was holding it at about that much, then you just get used to it. You just live with it, because it will be worse starting from the back. We saw this from Oscar Cantonen back in Monte Carlo, with starting from the back of the grid again, DNF'd, fairly early on in that race as well. So we could be looking at 4 DNFs in a row if Oscar Cantonen can't pull together something in that second race.
Ooh, Kevin Siggy's gone wide at turn 7, 8, I can't even remember. It must be turn 8. And basically what that means is that Fran Lopez then becomes the lead positive in the battle to try and catch up to Cooper. What this means with Canton's retirement, though, is that Jonathan Holmes is having to 8th, and I'm pretty sure that Jonathan Holmes will keep an eye on his position ultimately, because James Johnson, his Tanskin and teammate in Formula Challenge, got P6 in Bahrain as his highest result and his only points finishing result in Super Cup this season, actually. So he'll be keeping a little tabs on that to try and see whether he can oust his teammate in the Super Cup battle. Matt Richards is P9, and Roy Verzil on his debut here. I said he's not one of the most consistent drivers, but there he is, P10 for Fox, and if he's able to hold that out, then it's going to be Fox's joint highest finish of the season, as Christoph Lichtenstein was the last person to secure a top 10 for the team all the way back in Australia.
Yeah, the thing is with Roy is he looked so strong in Formula Challenge at the start of the year, if I recall correctly, pulling some really good times back then. Didn't quite work it out in the race, but this is what you said about his inconsistency, is that through the build-up to an event, he sometimes looks really good and just can't quite pull it off. However, on the build-up to this event, he didn't really look that great, and currently running in the top 10. That's a fantastic feat.
He's like the Formula Challenge version of Siggy, isn't he?
Yeah, basically. Sort of, oh, wow, you've got some really good pay. Oh, you're not up at the front? Okay.
Who knows, though? We were saying earlier in the show, some drivers find pace with faster cars. Maybe Roy finds consistency with faster cars.
Quite possibly. When you have a harder car to drive, your mind doesn't wander, and that's quite an important thing. When your mind starts wandering when you're in a car that's easier to drive, it just Fran Lopez, Alex Cooper. Fran Lopez got a really good drive out of that chicane. But when you've got a faster car like this, it's a bit harder to drive. Your mind just doesn't really wander so much.
Oh, Fran Lopez for the podium! Squirming on the braking, but Alex Cooper's able to hold on. Since the Austrian teammate Kevin Siggy let Fran Lopez through, he's just left them for dust, hasn't he? And he's right on the back of Cooper. And, we could be looking at Fran Lopez's third podium in a row, can you believe?
Well, he finished fourth.
Was he fourth?
Monaco.
Really?
Yep. Santiago Nies has been off the track, nearly rejoins in front of Ari Neiman, and that was pretty poor.
Gretsch has been in the wall as well. He's P14 now after harassing Rory Berzol for the last few laps.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened to Santiago Nies, but he just went off at turn 1 from his rejoin position. This moves Ari Neiman very close to the top 10. That's quite good for him in
Fran
the
Lopez.
Mesrick group.
Into the hairpin goes Fran Lopez, and that is the podium.
Well, it'll give Alex Cooper a really nice run out of the hairpin with that wide line. I don't know if it's going to be enough to push himself close to that position, but right up in front, Philip Pushka once again looking to the outside, doesn't quite make it stick. Alex Cooper has gotten ahead yet once again of Fran Lopez, saying that drive out of the hairpin was going to be very good for Alex Cooper. Indeed it was.
Fran Lopez, though, my word. Almost pushing Cooper through the chicane, and he does not look to have been compromised at all, does he? He's right back on it and diving almost into turn 1. Kevin Siggy going even wider, but this battle concertinaing up, and suddenly Alex Cooper, who is looking rather nice and in his own territory, a bit under pressure now.
Indeed. We'll just have to keep an eye on what's happening for this podium position. Currently, the two leaders of Sven de Vries and Philip Pushka have built themselves up an almost 7-second lead over the rest of the field after the 13 complete lap. So it's quite an impressive drive from them so far to give themselves such a good gap. But these two looking like they're going to be fighting to the end of the day. Philip Pushka's got a run out of 8, but is it going to be enough?
Lopez into 7, pushes Alex Cooper off the track. I don't know. Let's go back up to the lead, sorry, because this isn't much more. This is for bigger points, isn't it? This is for 25 and 20 points, and Pushka had a great exit out of the hairpin. But the question is he running higher wings? And I think oh my word, I thought he was going to push de Vries into the grass there, but no, he pops in for a bit more slipstream. Sven de Vries, though, defends nicely once again. And as I say, it's exactly the same case as the World Sports Series race 1 here last week. This gap has not extended itself out over 0.5 of a second. Apart from that one little mistake that Pushka made earlier in the race. And I don't know how Sven de Vries is going to hold on for, 15, so 25 more laps or something?
Obviously with a pit stop as well. I mean, the other thing that you've got to look out for is, Fran Lopez made a bit of a mistake, locked his rears, I believe, into 3 and 4. Is that going to give the position back to Alex Cooper? I don't think it will. But what you've got to look at with Pushka is how aggressively he's trying to attack for that position. As soon as he gets alongside, he needs to hold Sven de Vries to the right inside of the track for the chicane, and then basically at the last minute brake across the braking zone and give himself a good run, because that will compromise Sven de Vries through that final chicane, and that is what will give him this lead. But he's just working out where to compromise, where to get him into a mistake, as they're also coming up to lap Miko Jäkinen. As Fran Lopez under attack from Alex Cooper, not quite getting past.
Philip Pushka on the attack of Sven de Vries once again into the final chicane. Sven de Vries just doing his job, but I think that was a poor exit out of the chicane, wasn't it? Philip Pushka rides on the back of Sven de Vries. Miko Jäkinen moving out of the way nicely, the former 2-time Super League champion. Philip Pushka into turn 1. He can't do anything, he's just staying behind again.
I remember seeing this from Alex Cooper, of all people, back in Istanbul in WSS, if my memory serves me correctly, where it was him and Oscar Harwick fighting for the lead in both races. I believe that was one that you were away on.
It was the one WSS commentary I didn't commentate on.
Yes.
It was Nick Rowland with you.
Yes, I remember this. It's alright, I remember actually doing WSS. I have no recollection of doing Supercup. But with with those two, Alex Cooper was he seemed like the faster of the two. Never quite made an aggressive move on Oscar Harbeck. Oscar Harbeck went on to win both races, and it was the only time that season that one driver won both races of the evening in WSS. But that's just one thing about. Sometimes you just need to put your nose up there and make it stick. He seems to be braking a little bit early as Philip Pushka, as Alex Cooper was back in Istanbul. Just braking a little bit too early and not pushing it through, not pushing it up there, which is something which sometimes you just have to do.
Might he be saving his tyres?
Quite possibly, but we've said this about tyre wear at this track.
It's just not worth it.
It's just not worth it. Yeah, these tyres don't really explode. Although we've seen some pretty severe tyre wear from Philip Pushka over previous events back in Australia, but he seemed to have remedied that in Bahrain. So I don't know if he's really going to be having tyre problems, especially at this track. I know it's really slippery at this track, but I don't know why Philip is not quite making that move, because he seems to get his nose there, but not quite there. And there's a difference between the two.
Bar for the podium's heating up. Fran Lopez still has Alex Cooper on the back of him, and look behind him is the two sim racers in the Super Cup, which are probably the most aggressive in this field, is Kevin Siggy and Emmanuel Gaxella. I'm impressed with Gaxella, actually. He's just been there or thereabouts in the background, hasn't he? Just keeping a watching brief and not really having much to say. But he's in P6, and there's plenty of chance to move up the order if others make a mistake, and indeed through mistakes and strategy, as Mikko Jäkkinen's off the track there. But doing well as Gaxella in P6.
Yeah, the thing is with Gaxella and Siggy is these two have a fair amount of history within the 2014 season of the UltraNet Supercup. When you look back...
Siggy!
Yep, Siggy. Oh, he's getting Mr. Chicane. He braked a little bit too late. But yeah, those two have got a bit of history when you look at their experiences back in Malaysia. Siggy should really give that place up now.
Yeah.
As he does. Good. It's just those two have got history, so I wonder if Gaxella's going to close it for the back of Siggy. What's the mind frame? As I see somewhere, Matt Richards is into the pit lane.
Okay. So Matt Richards becomes our first pitter from P9.
He's gone onto the option tyres again.
Two stopping.
Yep, so I'm going to assume that was a mistake, and this is something that you need to have got some of the drivers for, because some drivers do accidentally keep putting on the second set of options. However, we have seen this as a glitch, I think 3 times this season so far, where it looks like from our side that they've gone onto the options when they've actually gone onto the primes again, as I also believe his teammate has been into the pits. No, it wasn't, it was just because of the way the pit lane works on this track.
I have some interesting news on Askari Kantonen.
Do you?
His knees are acting up.
Ah.
And that would explain the bad pace. And that would explain why he wouldn't continue. And I'm just checking now whether he is coming back for race 2. Or whether Adonis Engineering might be lining up a second race replacement for him. Because obviously if he's injured in real life, then it'd be quite harsh to put him through another race, I guess.
Yeah, I think I've never personally raced with a real world injury. But I could only imagine how difficult it would be. I've also noticed that the gap between Sven de Vries and Philip Pushka is
opened up, hasn't it?
It's opened it up. It's almost. I say it's opened it up. We're at half a second between the two of them, and it's just looking like it's gapping itself a little bit. But maybe Philip Pushka is just lining himself up and giving himself a better run. But hopefully Askari is okay, and if he can return for the second race, he'll do well. If not, Adonis can line someone
Richards
up.
pit again.
Yeah, I think that mistake onto the option tyres, possibly a drive-through. No, he's coming into his box.
Oh dear. Does that mean Jason
there they are. There's the primes. And he's boxing with his teammate in the same box, of course. Switching onto the different compound of tyres between the two of them.
It's interesting. We were hearing in Spain that there might be a rule introduced where you weren't allowed to do that, but there has been no rule written into the rule book. And so you're still allowed to do that, and personally I think it's quite an ingenious idea if you're able to do it, pit at the same time. But
yeah.
A shame for Matt Richards there, was looking pretty good in the top 10, and he's basically knocked an extra 20 seconds onto his lap time as Philip Pushka on the back of Sven de Vries. Yeah, he just braked early again into turn 1.
Once again, just braking a little bit early. I don't know. I think Philip Pushka, if he's not going to make an aggressive move, Maybe he's got some good strategy play coming into this. I don't know what Philip Pushka's got a plan for, but if he's not making that aggressive move, he's got to find something in that strategy to find him that position. But yeah, about Matt Richards, losing a lot of time. Hopefully, he'll get himself into the points. He's currently running in 17th position. I'm sure there's plenty of people in front of him that will be pitting or moving back up into that points-paying position.
Meanwhile, the battle for P3 rages on. Fran Lopez v Alex Cooper v Kevin Siggy, and Emmanuel Gaxella has fallen well off the back. He was right with them a couple of laps ago, and now he's just lost a load of pace, and I wonder whether the tyres are starting to eat up now. I reckon that the option tyres at Mac last about 24 laps or so, so actually about now is the right time to pit, I think, given that we're almost halfway through this race already.
How long is our second race of the evening? It's 18 laps?
It's 23 laps.
23 laps. Okay, so maybe some of these drivers are trying to work out if they can do... Obviously, they'd already know. But trying to do an option run. Kevin Siggy once again on Alex Cooper. Once again, coming into the pit lane.
That's different. Bit dangerous to go on the inside of Cooper.
You do recall what I was saying about this pit lane earlier on in the evening. It's dangerous.
Yeah, but don't pull across someone who's turning into a corner. Slow down. That's your bad. Let's see, it should be Prime. Yeah, he's onto the Prime. So the first of our front runners coming into the pits then. Gaxella, Gaia, Holmes, all coming in. Verziel and Niemanen also go through. But there we go. Siggy pits, comes out in P9. And that just shows how big the gaps are between everyone.
Yeah, this is just the nature of the track. You can build up some pretty good gaps, especially if you're running with other people that aren't necessarily attacking you for position. We've seen this from Kevin Siggy. He was kind of, other than that one really aggressive move on Alex Cooper, he's not really been trying too much. And when you're running behind someone and you're helping each other out, you're being more of an assistance to them as opposed to a hindrance. And that's what you should do. It's a bit like when you're running in a position which is where you should be running in. You're confident that your pace isn't actually that much better. Then you might as well just stick with this group and make your moves a little bit later on unless one opens up. It's just a bit of tactical play just to get you around, especially on a track like this where the slipstream affects so much.
Fran Lopez pits.
Sven de Vries getting a little bit held up by Ollie Pelkonen for Waters Automotive, but it's okay. Gets out of the way in turn 2.
So yeah, let's see what Fran Lopez does. He pulls into the pits now, onto the prime tyre, obviously. So Positive calling it a bit earlier. And interestingly, De Vries and Pushka, they've only got to complete one more lap, and then they've done a sprint race distance. Out comes Lopez, and let's see whether Siggy's been able to make up the time. Oh, I don't think he has. In fact,
wow, he's lost a
hell of a lot of time.
Yeah, I think it was that his pit entry being a bit compromised has cost him a lot of time. That is a long gap between the two of them.
That's increased by a good few seconds, hasn't it?
Seconds, yeah, it's about 3-4 seconds between the two of them now, possibly even more than that. We'll have a look as they cross the first sector split. It is 5 seconds.
Yeah, and there's Roy Versil, P8, hasn't pitted yet. Harry Neiman into the top 10 as well. But we wait for the leaders to pit. We're on lap 22 of 41 here. As I say, one more lap, and they would have completed the sprint race distance.
Oh, Philip Pushka into the pit lane. Oh, if I was Sven de Vries, I would have really required a change of overalls.
Let's see what Cooper does here. Cooper does not pit. Gaxella does not pit. Gaia does not pit. Holmes does not pit. Let's see where Philip Pushka comes out then. Gaxella and Cooper move up a place. Gaxella onto the podium. Here comes Holmes down the pit lane, and he's going to come out very close with Pushka. Is Holmes, but I think that the Englishman's going to be ahead. Oh, it's very close, and he's ahead of Holmes, but just behind Gaia, and that is going to hold up Philip Pushka no end.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one between those two. See which one, see if they can work it out. Obviously Florian not racing for position, could just pretty much get out of the way and let Pushka pass Gaia, but racing drivers, we don't do that at all, even remotely. So we'll have to see if Philip Pushka can actually make his way past. Maybe Gaia's pitting in the next couple of laps anyway, completing that full race distance. I think Sven de Vries could be in at the end of this lap, so keep an eye on him down that pit straight. Down the back straight, see if he actually heads into the pit lane. He currently has an 11.5 second lead, which is a big gap at this present moment in time.
Surely in he comes.
Nope.
No.
Oh,
Wow.
he's messed up that chicane.
Well,
that's going to cost him a lot of
Cost him
time.
a lot of time. A lot of time. That's interesting. So he's going over half race distance.
Cooper keeps going. Gagzella goes into the pits. Florian Gaia keeps going. Philip Pushka obviously keeps going.
And Holmes keeps going.
Yeah, it's interesting that some of these drivers are staying going, especially when it's obviously with the option tyre difference between the prime compound. There's going to be a lot of difference time-wise, but maybe once the thermal degradation set in, that's not quite the case. If you look at Philip Pushka, Florian Guy is actually kind of pulling away from him at the moment, so maybe Philip Pushka was a bit too early on that gun.
Let's see where
Roy
Gagzella
into the pit lane.
Look how much Gagzella has caught up here to Lopez. Look at him, he's jumped the 2 positives as Gagzella. Excellent stop. Well, the Romanian has done that to perfection, and maybe being on the option tyres for that longer amount of time was the right call, and Positive called it just a tad too early.
Yeah, this is things I think this is actually going to assist Sven de Vries quite a lot with the fact of he's on these option tyres, these faster tyres, the prime compounds. We've discussed this many a time before. It's the thermal degradation on these tyres which costs you time. It's not the actual degradation of tyre. That's not really what affects. Sven de Vries goes around again. So, especially on a track like this, where the thermal degradation is not going to be that high, it's not going to degrade the tyre very quickly. Sven de Vries can keep pumping in good laps, good consistent laps, that possibly will keep him in front of Philip Pushka. I'll actually look at how long he was in the pit lane. He was in the pit lane for about 17-18 seconds, and the gap between the two is about 17 or 18 seconds. So they're still going to be close as they come out of the pit lane. But
it's actually the top 5 have all gone through again. The look back to Gagzella and Lopez here into the final chicane of Gagzella.
Oh, he's in the wall.
Take off. And he's lost his front wing, and out he goes. What a shame for Gagzella. Battling too hard with Lopez, and Lopez no doubt will have got damage from that. Here comes Siggy with damage of his own, don't forget it. Oh, no! Oh my word, that was almost a team manager's worst nightmare. The 2 positives coming into contact with each other. And, well, they are doing their races no good. And I look up to the likes of Gaia and Cooper, and I think that those 2 might actually jump the positive races as well.
Quite possibly. We'll have to keep an eye on them. It's a shame as to what happened with Memo Gagzella, just a little bit too late on the brakes. Maybe once he's gotten that late on the brakes, he just, as much as it's not really a great thing to encourage, it's just to miss the chicane. It's the easiest way of doing it, of course. If you've gained or defended a position, you kind of generally have to give it up.
Sven de Vries in the pit finally pits on lap 25 of 41. We look behind now to Alex Cooper
into the pits,
who also pits. And I imagine that Gaia Simcraft might try the double stop
here. No, he's going around.
Wow, Gaia's going around again. And of course, Philip
Jonathan
Pushka.
Holmes in the pit lane. Philip Pushka keeps going around.
Right, let's see what the gap between De Vries and Pushka is. This is actually going to be close, isn't it? This is going to be very close.
Philip Pushka's going to be way behind.
Oh, is he?
Yep.
Oh, what about Gaia, though? Oh, Gaia's going to hold up proceedings. He takes the lead of the race. And yeah, De Vries has really opened up that gap to Pushka, despite the final chicane mishap a while ago. What? Oh, yeah, sorry, but yeah, De Vries really has to clear traffic now. Oh, my word, going onto the grass there. Looking at Cooper, though. Cooper has indeed jumped Fran Lopez and Kevin Siggy. So great stuff from Cooper there. Jonathan Holmes not so lucky. He's out into P7.
Yeah, I was saying about this. It's just the way the pit lane works, where when you leave the pit lane, you can be pretty much side by side with the guy on who's actually carrying full speed, but you'll be in front of them once you leave the pit lane because of the way that the pit lane works at this track. I think Florian Guy might actually start gapping Sven de Vries just a little bit because of that compound difference, but I think he might be in at the end of this lap anyway. So,
well, mind you, shout out to Ari Neiman and P8, and he has yet to pit as well.
Yeah, good stuff from Ari Neiman, and that'll be very good for the Midrick camp.
Yes, the 2 Innovisions start battling with each other.
Haha, funny, good reference.
Hey, Gaia goes round again.
Yeah. Yuri Oggiano's... Oh, no, it's alright, he's in the pit lane. I thought he'd DNF then. Down in P21, but it's okay, he's out of the pit lane.
As you say, Gaia still leading this race, amazingly, and starting to gap De Vries as
Siggy
well.
and Lopez, yeah. Siggy and Lopez going wheel to wheel. Siggy passed.
Siggy passed Lopez. But surely, remember, Lopez has that... drive. Oh, Lopez has a great traction. Lehman in the background going round again on the option tyres. Let's have a look. Both of these positive cars now have damage. Siggy on the rear wing. And Lopez, no doubt, in the left part of his suspension. And who's that going up? Is that Gatewood in the pits? Yes, it is Gatewood in the pits. And Muscat, actually, is into the top 10 once again, but he is yet to pit again onto the prime tyres. So we're expecting him in a bit later, aren't we?
Indeed. I'm a bit of a slide from Philip Pushkin coming out of turn 8. I'm going to keep an eye on Pushkin, see how much he closes up to the back of Sven de Vries, because it's currently just over a second, and it's still that 1.1 second gap that Sven de Vries is holding. This is the section where we think Philip Pushkin might have the more advantage over the two drivers. So keep an eye on them as they cross, as they go down this back straight. You know, so I'm just wondering if this lead is actually going to close up again, because it's looking like Sven de Vries has called the strategy masterfully at the moment. But through that final chicane, Philip Pushka looks very good. The guy has entered the pit lane. We'll have to see where he comes out.
This tapper in the background goes off.
There you go, 9/10 per second.
9/10 per second. That is coming down, isn't it? But we look to Gaia now, who misses his pit box.
Yeah, missed his pit box a little bit. That's going to cost him a lot of time. You know, you're talking second and a half there for Florian Gaia. Probably even more than that, if I'm honest.
Let's see where he comes out. He's passed by Lopez, and he's passed
by.
He's
going to get in front
even
of Holmes.
He's
going to get in front of Holmes. Yep.
And yeah, so overall, if anything, I think Holmes has caught up to the back of the positives, hasn't he? And Gaia really comes out where he was in the first place. So no real net gain or loss for Florian Gaia.
Aaron Niemanen's been in the pit lane.
Finally,
Aaron Niemanen is
and Muscat
off
as well.
Indeed, Muscat obviously with the his race not going too well. Aaron Niemanen still out in the top 10.
P9.
Great drive. Great drive from Aaron Niemanen at the moment.
Virgil P8 and Jason Muscat, wow, from a first lap disaster, genuinely into the top 10. Great recovery drive from the Maltese.
Yeah, see if he can close up to the back of Aaron Niemanen and move him down a position and increase his advantage of a decent reverse grid position. Obviously, with the again, you know, to tell you once again, sitting at home, that it's P8 to P10. Those
P6.
are the grid. P6. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I'll remember one day. It's P6 to P10 that are reversed. Any number in between there, and that's the number that is reversed. The lead gap over a second as Pavel Loknovsky exits the day.
Retires with brakes.
Wow, that's quite
His
impressive in these
brakes
cars.
went.
I've never seen that before.
Extraordinary.
I've not seen that before.
Is Sandeep Choda actually driving?
Yeah, no. This was something that was pointed out a while ago. It seems like he's driven into his garage, has stopped the car, and hasn't escaped.
Oh,
he's just sort of sitting there. I'm surprised the engine hasn't blown up yet, or has it?
No,
it's still going. That's quite impressive.
He could do a British touring car thing and come out like 5 laps later.
Yeah.
Sandeep.
What a guy.
Shout out, first Indian in the Super Cup and making a good impression as well. Good stuff from
Meanwhile,
Choda
his teammate trying to close up to the back of Sven de Vries for the win of this race. We don't have too long to go in this race, so Philip Pushka really needs to close up to the back, but I think Sven de Vries could just be a little bit out of range at the moment for Philip Pushka.
And remember, the Pushka pitted earlier as well. So he's going to have less life on those tyres by the end.
Yeah, but as I say, the life on these tyres is not really the most important thing. It's the thermal degradation, which doesn't seem to happen too much this track. 1.2 seconds. It's gone up a couple of tenths on that lap. Sven de Vries has gone off the track. Sven de Vries has gone off the track. He's rejoined, but he's lost a lot of time.
It's a good chunk, isn't it? About 6 tenths or so. But he was able to extend the gap before. I'm sure he'll be able to extend the gap again. Just get back into the rhythm of it.
Well, you say
hello.
that. Yes,
Jonathan Holmes has just gotten past Florian Gaia into turn 1.
Yeah, and turn 2 though, Florian Gaia is going to be on the outside. Is it going to be enough? They're going to be side by side up towards 3.
Masterful drive from Jonathan Holmes so far, and if he is able to hold it, oh wow, Gaia around the outside of turn 4, great effort. Turn 3, it's not a corner, James. Turn 3, great drive from Holmes so far. He's almost going to equal his teammate in Formula Challenge's best result, which was P6, which was back in Bahrain.
Indeed, I'm not sure who was jumping about then. I think it was Patrick Gatewood's been off. Wow, that was really poor rejoin from Patrick Gatewood. Almost into the side of Terence Grepp. That was pretty poor.
Yeah. Well, at least there wasn't contact though.
Indeed, but Brandon Warren, wow, that's someone who I've not really picked up on. P13.
And with Matt Richards as well, who had an extra stop because he didn't get the prime compounder tyre on his car.
Oh, Brandon Warren's run a bit deep.
It's a good little battle this for the lower half of the points, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's a nice comeback.
Straight past. Yeah, there's a nice cutback from Richards right there. But Brandon Warren running in the points is a good feat from him.
And that's all important as well, because remember, Simcraft at their current rate are going to storm past Satellite at this rate. And Brandon Warren, or whoever's in that second Satellite car, really needs to pick up some decent results. Otherwise, they won't have a chance at P2 in the end.
Speaking of Storm, Adrian McNaughton is currently in 15th position, so he's doing a pretty good job from where he qualified. Wasn't
miles ahead of
good.
Jacobs.
Yeah, and quite a way ahead of Jacobs. So we have Jacobs on the option compound tyre, and everyone in the top 15 currently running on the primes, as Brandon Warren's actually gotten past Matt Richards again. So it's quite a good battle there for P13 and P14. What isn't a battle at the moment currently is that for the lead. 0.8 of a second is what separates Sven de Vries and Philip Pushka. And whether that will be closing up, maybe Philip Pushka can get into that slipstream, I don't know. But we'll have to keep an eye on those two. I don't think it will close up now.
No, I'm slightly sceptical as well as my game's jumping about. Apologies if I move off as Sven de Vries clouts the wall of champions. Is that an omen? Certainly wasn't for Ascari Cantonen, was it?
Half a second.
It's coming down, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, I wonder whether this was Philip. Well, that was.
That came down quite a lot there through that chicane. Wow.
That was like me and a Subway sandwich gone in about 5 minutes. Although this wasn't 5 minutes. We're talking time. You know what? I made another food reference in the WSS with marshmallows. Did not go well. And that did not go as well as planned either. But nevertheless, you get the impression. Pushka, I wonder whether this was his plan all along.
Quite possibly. Just look down in P11 and P12. Patrick Gatewood and Terence Grech. Obviously, with that rejoin from Gatewood, put him behind Terence Grech. They're now just changing positions down the back straight. Oh, they're going to go second chicane. Bit of contact there. That was somewhat dodgy. Yes, that was somewhat dodgy. As Gatewood's going to go around the outside of turn 1.
Hey!
Good move.
Nice move.
Good move.
It's good battling below the top 10, isn't it? Lovely stuff to see.
Yeah, indeed.
Meanwhile, though, oh, hey, look! Mr. Pushka is on the move. Sven de Vries occupies his first position, or so he thinks is his first position. Look at him now, right on the back and looking into the entrance of turn 1. Nope. Breaks early, as always. But he's right there again, within a tenth of the American. And
yeah, it's closed up to where it was. Obviously, Pushka couldn't make a move earlier. Oh, Siggy.
Nope, that's timing.
That's timing, yeah. I saw someone moving around. It's fine. He's regained his 5th position right behind Fran Lopez, so that's okay. We can stop having a heart attack. The gap between the lead under a tenth of a second. And, Philip Pushka didn't quite make that aggressive move earlier on. Maybe he was just waiting for the right moment, and now, everything's to play for. Quite possibly could open himself up for a move. We'll just have to keep an eye on him with 8 laps to go and the completion of this lap.
It's getting juicy, isn't it? We're in for a royal showdown to the end as Philip Pushka looks to the outside of De Vries into the hairpin. He takes the wider line. It'll give a better exit. Oh, that
Lord,
was lag.
that was nearly a timeout. Wow.
Pushka's connection is maxing out, isn't it? But nevertheless, he's onto the back of De Vries. And De Vries going ultra defensive. Here goes Pushka to the outside. De Vries pulls across to try and defend. And once again, we've seen this so many times this race. De Vries just puts his car in the right place and Pushka gets a little bit of a slide, but he's going to have to stay behind as we head on to lap 34.
Yeah, I remember once having to attack Sven de Vries for one lowly position of about 18th at this track down in ITC in, I think it was January of this year. And
yeah,
Sven doesn't make it easy to get past on this track. He's quite good at defending on a track such as this. I'm not really sure who just flicked around then. I think it was Florian Guy getting past Jonathan Holmes. Someone flicked around down at the back of the field. Actually, no, there you go. Ari Neiman and Jason Muscat, they've switched positions. P9 for Jason Muscat. Moving himself further up in that top 10. He's got 7 seconds to the car in front of Roy Vijal. But will he be able to close that one up? I think unlikely in the latter part of this race.
Great recovery drive, it must be said, from Muscat. Mm-hmm. Great recovery drive. Considering he had to pit for a front nose as well. And it's what makes him a good driver, and that's why he is P2 in the championship currently. Going to take a bit of a dent to his chances, though. Mind you, Canton not scoring, he's going to be clearly in P2. Just losing a hell of a load of points to Sven de Vries, who's currently occupying P1. Though for how much longer is the question.
I'm sure
is still there.
I'm sure the Edness boys are really wanting Philip Pushka to take the win, just to take a few points away from Sven de Vries. He's going to have yet another look, just not quite close enough.
Yeah, it's there or thereabouts, isn't it? But you can feel that a move is incoming. And I'm wondering whether Pushka's taking, or has taken, notes from Strana's book. Because remember, Strana, he made his move in the World Sports Series on the last lap. As what was going on there? That's Kevin Siggy actually getting past Fran Lopez once again. For P4 and 5, the positive sim battle going on, raging on. And I wonder whether Lopez's suspension damage is really starting to hurt him now. No doubt it would have been intensified with the prime tyres, having less grip, and Siggy looking the better driver at the moment now, I'd say. Really on a charge.
Oh, Patrick Gator and Terence Grech once again. Switching positions down in P11, P12. That was what was flickering about on my screen. They're still going at it.
They're having a right old ding-dong, aren't they?
Yeah, but about Sven de Vries, if he loses, 2 leads on the last lap at this circuit, he's going to start hating Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which we are currently at. That was... Oh.
Gretchen Gatewood again, going side by side into the chicane, and Gretchen retakes all of this over P11.
But look who's closing up to the back of them.
Matt Richards, of course.
Yeah, after getting 13th from Brandon Moore, and he's starting to storm up to the back of these two as they're going, quite aggressive with the fighting, and aggressive fighting on pretty much all tracks. Not necessarily this one. Will lose you a lot of time. I remember in the ITC, I was battling with a few people, and even in Formula Challenge, battling with a few people, and it was like lap 5 or 6. I finally got some free air, and my lap was about 3 or 4 seconds faster because I wasn't battling with these people. You can lose a lot of time from battling, especially with the way these two are going at it.
Hey, shout out. Sandeep Choda has finally retired from this race.
Shout out.
On lap 17 of 41.
Wow.
Yeah, you must have listened. Thank you, Sandeep. And also shout out to Mike Schroten, who has retired, and he retired quite a while ago actually on lap 32 of 41 as Terence Grech goes wide. And now Matt Richards is really involved in this battle, and I can see fireworks from this.
I can indeed. This could be something to look out for the last few laps, seeing if the lead group will close up at all. We've got a few gaps. Yeah. He's gone a bit deep. Escape. Richards past both of them. That was a move.
That was a great opportunistic move, wasn't it? He was like, "Thank you very much," and
good day.
The Welshman goes. Yeah, good day. And those fireworks happened there and then, and wow, Gretchen Gatewood must be wondering what just hit them, because Matt Richards was through like a Welsh flash.
He's making his way up the field to hopefully give himself a good position. He's +4 at the moment. I think he qualified 15th, so giving him a better position for that second race. We know how well he can start the car, so as we saw in Bahrain, so we'll just have to keep an eye on him in the second race, see if he can get another one of those starts and move his way up towards the front of the field.
5 laps to go, and it's Sven de Vries being harried by Philip Pushka within 2/10 of the American is the German.
Oh, Terence Grech's been off. Oh, time out. That was a really weird one. Well, I wouldn't know.
Oh my word, he did what I did in the TSA F1 2011 Championship. He just spun it on the curve of turn 7.
Oh, I was really...
And he had a weird timeout as well.
Yeah, McNaughton, very lucky, because he went into that car, and then it was like...
He drove through that car.
Timeout. Oh, okay, sure.
What's that ex... Who's that ex-woman? With the... I know her... She's got the power to go through walls and just become non-physical.
Is this a TV programme?
X-Men?
Well, oh, okay. I was like, what the fuck are you going on about? Wow, sorry. Apologies. Wow, apologies. That requires a bleep.
That does require a bleep.
Wow.
Wow, okay. Wow. Well, let's just move on to Sven de Vries and Philip Pushka. And I tell you what, that word must have been used multiple times by Sven de Vries during this race, because, I mean, the number of times Philip Pushka has just... romped up to the back of him, looked for a move and then not done a move has just been countless. And, well, I mean, we're running out of laps here, Lewis. Absolutely running out of laps. And Pushka needs to do something. Otherwise, that's 5 points down the drain.
Indeed. You know, it's got to. You really got to work on this win. Obviously, with the second race, even giving another 25 points for Philip Pushka. So it depends on who obviously takes the win. But Philip Pushka, he's going to want those extra points because he's a long way off in this championship. And although the championship is quite a long one to go, he's going to want every single point that he has. And with not too many laps to go this race, this first race of the evening, he's going to really have to catch the back of some injuries. But it's just every time he comes up to the back, he doesn't quite make that move stick. So I don't know if he's going to be able to do it.
Adrian McNaughton did a shadow cap, by the way. That was the ex-woman I was thinking of.
Yeah.
But I tell you what's it? Philip Pushka needs to pull off some Wolverine sort of tactics here because he's not making any impact. You know, he makes all of this ground up, and then there's nothing about it. He breaks early into turn one once again. He needs to be forceful, and I know that he's trying not to hit Sven de Vries, and you know there's a thing about driving standards and whatnot, and you know want to be clean, you want to be safe, but you need to be bold as well. Just look at Matt Richards, you know, making it through Terence Gretsch and Patrick Gatewood. If he wasn't bold like that, then he would have never taken the 2 positions in one corner. This is for the lead, you know, this is Philip Pushka's chance to get a 3rd race win of the season. I'm just wondering whether he's suffering from a lack of what's the right word? You know, desire. You know, whoever wants to win a race needs to want to win a race and want it most, and Pushka just hasn't shown that to me today.
Well, not only that, you know, it's a risk. You know, obviously Sven de Vries has got quite a bit to risk. He's got a championship lead to risk, and if he makes contact with Philip Pushka, I don't think it will cost him that much because of the 17-second lead they have over Alex Cooper. So, you know, I don't think it will cost him that much. But Philip Pushka just needs to get out of this mind frame of I could lose a second position or I could lose a first position. You know, if you can actually get there, you're not in the championship at the moment. You know, you need to work for the championship. And Sven de Vries is getting held up by a back marker. I believe it was a TSA of Thomas Jacobs as he gets out of the way. But he just needs to aggressively make the move. He's got nothing to lose from this. Once again, breaking too early. Yeah, too early.
And actually locking up in the process. And
that's also true.
That's a good point brought up by our cameraman for the team, Dave Carl-Smith. Welcome back, Dave Carl-Smith. After Lewis Redshaw took his cameras away from him for Monaco. But yeah, we got to remember the wing settings. And if Sven de Vries is running a better wing setup than Pushka, then he's going to naturally be able to brake later. We might be seeing here that Philip Pushka is actually running a lower wing setting. I don't think he is. I just think he's running a different one. And it's a different one, which means that he's unstable into the braking, which does make a lot of sense, because into those heavy braking zones, he struggles.
Yeah, it's just, you know, we're on the penultimate lap. We're about to head on to the final lap of the first race this evening. And although it's close, I don't see this too much as a battle, because as much as, you know, it's oh, look out, nothing happens. You know, they're not changing positions. It's just Pushka's having a look here and there and not doing anything with it. So I don't know if those two are actually going to be chopping and changing position-wise, as he has another look and doesn't quite get round, going around the outside of that braking zone. As I said, you know, he's got to hold Sven de Vries to the inside of the track if he can.
Well, he's got one lap to do it, and this is when Eric Strana made his move into turn 1. It was right here. Philip Pushka, though, can't do anything about it. Round turn 2 we go, or the centre. Oh,
big slide, yeah. I think that's it done.
From Pushka. Yep. I think that's game over as well, unless Sven de Vries makes a mistake.
I think if we recall back to Australia, I think Sven de Vries on the penultimate lap of the feature race at Australia, he had a big slide through the final turn, and we were like, that's it, it's over. And yet, right at the end of that lap, bam, Sven de Vries right on the back of Oskar Kanten in the final couple of turns. So
look at Pushka here. He actually is right behind, isn't he? And as you say, we've been looking at it all through the race. Pushka dominates in the second sector. De Vries dominates in the first, and these two very much equal out in the third as De Vries goes very defensive. He's going to get a toe off his team. No, he's not. Brandon Warren gets out of the way. That's 15th place they're lapping. And, well, look at that. That was that a bit of defensive work from the teammate there? Philip Pushka getting held up He's going to have to make a move into the final
Ooh.
chicane if he's going to make a move at all. Here we go into the wall of champions. Pushka does try around the outside, but he can't get it done. And Sven de Vries then, he takes his 4th win of the season.
4th? Yes, it would be
is.
the 4th.
It
yes.
is the 4th win of the season. So well done to Sven de Vries from pole position to the win. Philip Pushka, great for his return, P2. Alex Cooper on his return, P3. Miles
Jonathan!
ahead.
Gyron Holmes.
Oh God, let's have a look at this. Gyron Holmes is going to be going to the line. Holmes in P6. Can he make it to the line? Oh, it's ever so close. 300ths in it. But Jonathan Holmes equals his Formula Challenge teammate Jonathan.
Vajar Muscat as well.
Jonathan Johnson. God, what am I talking about? Here we go. Roy Verzil. And look at Jason Muscat, the guy who lost his front wing in the first lap, looking to take P8. Can he do it? He's got a great exit out the chicane. Mind you, though,
Not going to do it.
what a job from Roy Verzil. The guy who is inconsistent all the time in Formula Challenge. P8. That is Fox Racing's highest finish to date this season. What a fantastic effort from the Dutchman. To go through the other results, Kevin Siggy P4, Fran Lopez P5, John Holmes, as we said, P6, equaling James Johnson's best finish, his FC teammate at Tascan. Gaia P7, Verzil P8, Jason Muscat P9, Ari Niemanen P10. Great effort from the Finn. Matt Richards P11, Gatewood P12, McNaughton P13, Gretsch P14, and Brandon Warren takes the final point. And your reverse grid candidates from 6 to 10 are Jonathan Holmes on his debut, Florian Gaia, who got reverse grid pole last time out in Monaco, Roy Verzil on his debut, Jason Muscat, who can definitely win a race in reverse grid, and Ari Niemanen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We have any of those positions. I think Jonathan Holmes is going to be looking pretty good, obviously with that pace wise. But we'll just have to keep an eye on what's going to happen. I think Matt Richards in P11 is a fantastic result. Obviously, could have got himself up into that top 10 had he not had to make the 2 pit stops. Obviously, with the mistake, someone really needs to fix that button. It's quite difficult. You only really remember when you're in the pit lane to reset tyres. You should really just set it straight away. When you do a formation lap, just set it then. Because that's when I found there was an issue with the WSS cars with the changing from the slicks to the wets. You just try and set it on the formation lap because then you're not trying to hit apexes whilst fiddling about with what tyres you need to be on. So yeah, it was a good drive for him to get up into that 11th position, but a reverse grid candidate is going to be an interesting one. I think Jason Muscat might have a good chance of a reverse grid win if it's reversed from where he is.
I think we'd also like to make a formal apology for any foul language you may have heard in that
Indeed,
broadcast.
I apologise. I try very hard not to. I try to be reserved.
I'd imagine that we don't have many people under the age of 16 watching the broadcast anyway, so yeah, nevertheless, we do apologise, and hopefully it won't happen again. But yes, let us find out then who is on reverse grid pole. I'm excited, personally. I mean, we've got two newbies to the Super Cup. I will say 2 noobs there. They're not noobs at all. They did a great job. 2 race winners, and Ari Niemanen, who has been there or thereabouts, really, and has never really had a chance to show off from the front. So, let's see. Reverse grid pole for the Canadian UltraNet Supercup round goes to...
Oh.
Ari Niemanen, number 10.
That's the 3rd time this season we've had number 10 as the reverse grid. So,
we enter warm-up with rain.
Indeed, we do. Not too much wetness though on track. I'm interested by that because I think this just really opens it up for Jason Muscat in that PA. Will be P2. I believe, on the start, so that'll really open it up for him if he can get himself up into the P1 slot very early.
Ari's first reaction? Oh no. Oh, come on, Ari, you'll be fine.
Well, I remember sitting in Germany and being told, oh, you're on the reverse grid, and I was like, oh dear.
Oh dear?
Well, yeah,
yes.
I'm kind of like, oh, okay, nerves are going. It gets a bit scary at times.
So let's look at this reverse grid as it is actually. So it'd be Niemanen with Muscat on the front row, then Virgil and Gaia, row 2, and Holmes and Lopez. I mean, it's hard not to put your money in Muscat and Gaia, really. In what would be only the second. I mean, if we do have a different winner today, then only be the second round.
It will be the second round, indeed. Obviously, with what happened in China, with Sven de Vries's win in the first race being given up due to the RF scan penalties, which means that he was dropped down to fourth or fifth or something like that, and Muscat was given the win, so he got the double win there. So yeah, this could be the second round that we see two different winners. I don't think Sven de Vries is going to do it with the way his wings are, but an aggressive start, possibly he can.
Who knows?
Who knows?
We might even have rain. We could. Can you imagine that rain in a GPVWC race? That'd be funny.
We haven't had rain in a race this season.
It's actually really funny because as part of my Formula Challenge prep, I actually went back to watch. I haven't finished watching it, but to watch the Formula Challenge round in Austria from last race, and Lee Morris was complaining about there being rain every race. And I was thinking, God, those are the days, weren't they? We hardly have rain anymore.
I think I've only done one wet event in GPWC, and that was in Italy last year.
Yes.
There's global warming.
Dave Carr-Smith, league administrator on the side of comedian.
Bringing the comedy to our Supercup evening.
Oh dear. Actually, I'll tell you a sad point, which was a case for comedy last or 2 weeks ago. Christoph Liechtenstein lost his point from Monaco because of a penalty.
Yeah,
like we were all saddened by that. We love Christoph
That's the
Liechtenstein.
moment where in the community you just hear,
oh. Just a collective sadness. It's like your prized teddy bear from when you were 2 was just ripped open by your dog.
No. When I was 2, I never had a teddy bear.
No.
Nope.
I was lathered with teddy bears. I could have made a bed of teddy bears.
Wonderful. I couldn't. I had Lego, which was painful when you stand on it.
When you stand on it, absolutely.
Yep.
What's worse to stand on? A Lego brick
or a plug? Yeah. This is the argument that I've always.
That is the argument. Yeah.
I've sometimes stood on a Lego brick normally, but once I was standing on my sofa because I was just changing the light, and I'd just come straight off the sofa. My right foot goes bang on an upside down plug. That hurt a lot. That was one of those ones where you just need to sit down and scream a little bit because it was really painful.
I think on the topic of pain as well, I've actually had a filling today. My first filling. And I was worried about the numbness, how long it would last. Because, well, when I came out of the whole operating theatre and stuff, it sounds like I've had an operation. I haven't really. The 2 letters which I couldn't pronounce properly were P and B.
Yeah. Which
would have made a huge problem with PB racing. But yeah, thankfully, I can say P and B, obviously. It's not that hard. But yeah, that is this must be the weirdest halftime talk.
This is probably the weirdest one we've had so far.
Pain and teddy bears, crazy.
If you want me to bring up some more relevant stuff, if you look currently in this warm-up session at the split, I don't know if this is the split that people are trying to go for, but there is a big split between options and primes, and someone has started doing some laps. A few people have started doing some laps, which is Matt Richards, and this is something that I want to bring out a little bit, is that his tyre wears looked really high this season in comparison to other people's. Obviously having to do the feature races on the opposite compound tyre than quite a lot of other people. So, maybe his tyre wear is just a little bit higher than others, which is why he was on the prime compound a little bit earlier on, and his teammate was on the options. We currently have 3% wetness out on track as we move into the race. It's all gone, all dry.
I can hear rain.
Now
I can't. Now I cannot hear rain.
It's all updated. We have no rain. It's all right. Maybe it'll be like Indianapolis, and it'll all be like dry and dry and dry.
And I can make
bam rain.
And I can make a terrible amount of Renier. Well, actually, no, it's not a terrible amount. It's the same joke multiple times.
Options
very
all
poorly.
Around, excluding a few people, 2 people lower down. So everyone.
Let's see, Pelkonen. Let's see, Schroten is definitely on prime. Pelkonen definitely on prime.
Everyone else on the option tyres, as Ari Nieminen leads away from pole position.
And notice no Kantonen. So he has called it a day.
It's alright if his knees are playing up then. Sometimes that's just what you got to do.
Yeah, it's a shame. So 4 no scores in a row for Kantonen. At this rate, Pushka might actually be able to overtake him in the standings. Either way, it's Ari Nieminen for the first time on pole position. With Jason Muscat, definitely my pick for this race. He came back from a front wing loss last time to P9. What can he do here on the front row? We then got Roy Virgil, a fantastic debut for him in the Super Cup for Fox. Good points there at the bottom of the table. He's in P3 with Florian Gaia, P4 for Simcraft. Jonathan Holmes is P5 for Multiforce, an equally excellent debut for him. Fran Lopez, P6 for Positive, his teammate Kevin Siggy, P7 behind him. Alex Cooper, P8 for Simcraft with Philip Pushka, P9 for PB, and race winner from race 1, Sven de Vries, starts P10 for Satellite. We then have Matt Richards, P11 for TSA. Patrick Gatewood, P12 for Multiforce. Adrian McNaughton, P13 for Storm. Terence Gretsch, P14 for Centurion. Brandon Warren, P15 for Satellite. Thomas Jacobs, P16 for TSA. Dawi Tapper, P17 for SRS. Christoph Lichtenstein, P18 for Fox. Santiago Niza, P19 for Street Fighter. P20 is Mike Bell for Mizurich. Yuri Ogiano is P21 for Scuderia Basilia. Olli Pelkonen is P22 for Waters. P23 goes to Mikko Jakinen for Scuderia Basilia. Mike Schroten's P24 for Waters, so we've got a nice Basilia and Waters battle there. Pavel Oknovsky starts P25 for FA. Emmanuel Gaxella starts P26 for Storm. And Sandeep Choda rounds up the grid for PB Racing in P27 with no second Adonis car. Scotty Kantonen leading it for this evening with a knee injury.
Yeah, I think we'll have to keep an eye on Gaxella and Loknovsky down in the as they're all stacking up towards the back of the field. Those two, probably they're obviously the fast ones back there, possibly going to move themselves up into a point-paying position. I think the last time Gaxella started that low, he did DNF the race back in Malaysia, so maybe that could be for him. I don't know. We'll just have to keep an eye on what's going on between those two. They're going to be the ones moving up in the race. But yeah, my pick for the race win would be Jason Muscat. He's in a really great position to take second win of the evening.
For once we agree on something. The question is, what can our pole sitter do? Ari Nieminen, the lesser known of the Formula Challenge stars, moving up into Super Cup for this season. What can he do here? We've got 3, 4, 5 lights up for the second time here in Montreal. We are off and away, and it is a great start from Jason Muscat, straight into lead. Nieminen got away well, but he bogged down, and he has managed to maintain P2. Those some good stuff from there and behind. Everyone's trying to filter through. A bit messy, it must be said, as Jonathan Holmes trying to get his way through there. But everyone gets round okay, I think,
Richards
actually.
in 5th. He's had a great start once again.
From P11.
Oh, contact in the background between one of these Simcrafts. I'm not really sure who it was. Alex Cooper.
Oh, it's Cooper. And that's why he left in the first place, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a careless move from what I saw on one of the positives. That's left Christoph Lichtenstein in the wall and Thomas Jacobs without a front wing. So that'll be one that would have to be looked at. I think he's got a puncture as well because he's spinning round and round. It's probably going to be a possibly DNF from Alex Cooper back towards the front of the field, though. See who's battling out with who. Currently no one into the hairpin. Doesn't look like we've got so far. So it's all a bit clean. Excluding what's happened. Sandeep Choda moving down the field. Actually, I think it was someone else that's just timed out. Oh, one of the FAs. Not really sure who that was.
It's
Pavel
Oknovsky, yeah.
It was Pavel. Yeah, that was
Christoph
on the grass
already
a bit
as well. But that was even more eventful than the first lap, wasn't it? Nevertheless, it's Jason Muscat then. He leads this race for Adonis Engineering, the lone Adonis car in the race. He leads by 7/10 from Nieminen, Virgil, Gaia, Richards, Lopez, Holmes, De Vries, Siggy, Gatewood up into 10th, but under heavy attack from Dawe Tapper into turn 1. Gatewood holds on, but Tapper and Pushka, who's actually lost out, he's down to P12 is Pushka. Those three battling out for the last top 10 positions. Jason Muscat, though, doing well to keep ahead, and actually Nieminen as well, solidly in second. Gaia not really making the impression he would have liked. He's managed to stay P4, but not really moving forward, is he? In fact, he's under pressure from Matt Richards, who made a fantastic start from P11 to P5.
Yeah, those two were battling it out in the previous race, the feature race of the evening. Obviously, it was the other way round, but it looks like Florian might be getting held up a little bit by the car in front, the Fox Racing car of Roy Vazal in front. But Matt Richards having a little look on the outside of the hairpin, not quite going to make it stick. Aaron Nieminen!
Oh no, Harry, and that's completely ruined Roy's race as well.
Well, Fran Lopez is going to be looking for a podium position on Matt Richards down this back straight into the chicane.
Well, let's have a look, shall we?
3 wide.
Look at Lopez as well. They're going to go 3 wide. Oh no, there's contact, and well, how on earth none of them ended up in the wall after that is beggars belief. But Gaia then is P2, Richards P3, Lopez P4, Holmes into P5, De Vries P6, Siggy P7, and Ari Nieminen and Roy Berzl.
Oh, Fran Lopez now, too deep in turn one.
And he's completely missed it. And how many positions is he going to lose here? Gaia goes through, Richards, Holmes as well, and
all the way back down to 7th.
Siggy as well, all the way back to 7th. Then it's Nieminen, Berzl and Tapper rounding out the top 10 with Gatewood and Pushka in P10 and P12. I tell you what, Jason Muscat is laughing, isn't he? 3.4 seconds is the lead now.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a bit like what happened to Florian Gaia, man in P2, back in Monte Carlo. As someone's dropping down. Tapper, yes, Tapper's been off the track. He rejoins in front of Mike Bell. That's debatable. Spins off the track once again.
Wow, what an awful event for Dawe Tapper.
Oh, Siggy and Lopez have also switched positions in 6th and 7th. Once again, Fran Lopez trying to work his way up through the field.
My word, it's all kicking off. It's all kicking off, isn't it? My word, it's just...
Welcome to Race 2 of Supercup.
Welcome to Race 2 of Supercup. If you're just joining us, it is carnage on earth as Dawe Tapper retires. Is there has to be any other retirements? No, he's only retiring number 2. You've got to be joking. Either way, behind Jason Muscat, look at this. Gaia, Jono Holmes up into the podium on his debut. This is astonishing stuff. And Multiforce could be looking at a podium position from their debut driver.
Sven de Vries also.
Oh my word, De Vries is in there as well. This is... Oh my...
Well, yeah, Sven de Vries does get past on Matt Richards. However, Matt Richards is going to have the inside for 2. Wow. Tries to push him out a little bit wide. It's going to be interesting through 3. They're side by side at the moment. Who's going to be giving up? Pretty much no one. Sven de Vries gets through and up into that 4th position.
And did he just cut the wall? Matt Richards possibly, but yeah, Sven de Vries almost on the podium already. Great drive from the American, but the question is the gap too big to Muscat to really take the win? Behind Richards is Lopez. Siggy Pushka up to P8. He's made a real charge over the last lap. Nieminen 9th, Verzil 10th, Gatewood 11th, McNaughton 12th, Bell 13th, Niesa 14th, and Ollie Pelkonen currently on the last point scoring position, but he's on the prime tyre. Who'll be susceptible to a Yuri Ogiano attack later in the race. Oh,
Sven de Vries and Jonathan Holmes going side by side through the hairpin. Jonathan Holmes pretty much gets out of the way of Sven de Vries. He's going to give him a nice drive down this back straight, and I think Jonathan Holmes has got a nice top speed in that car, as the way he passed Matt Richards earlier on in the race, as he is going to fly past on the straight. Is he? A little bit. He's back up in the 3rd position, straight, but Sven de Vries is going to be late on the brakes.
Yeah. And Sven de Vries is... We can tell you that Sven, if you are just joining in for race 1, Sven de Vries has a lot of experience defending into that corner now, if he didn't before. And it's a podium for the American. Great event for him so far, and, well, I guess the saving grace is how bad Muscat did in race 1. Because at the moment, de Vries is going to be extending his championship lead.
Yeah, Florian's brought that gap down a little bit to Jason Muscat. It was 3.4, it's now 3.3. I know that's a really small margin. But you consider also how fast... Oh, Matt Richards on Jonathan Holmes. No, it's okay. It's just a little bit of a look for a dive bomb. But Sven de Vries, yeah, you consider how much Sven de Vries is also making his way through this field. So with Florian leading this field and slightly gaining on Muscat, and Sven de Vries working his way through this field, Sven de Vries is on one hell of a charge at the moment for the second race win of the evening. And, we've said this before, that only on one occasion this year has there been 2 different winners on the same evening.
Who knows? I see Roy Verzil there has gotten past Ari Nieminen to P9. As I tell you, this battle for the bottom points is really heated up, and it's not... Oh, Ari Nieminen. He's really... he's a bit nervy now, isn't it? A real shame, and he's been taken by Patrick Gatewood and indeed Adrian McNaughton as well, who's into the top 10 for the first time this evening. Nice little battle for the bottom of the top 10 though. It's a shame to see Neiman in a
Jonathan Holmes has skipped the chicane. Matt Richards has gone past 4th position.
Ooh. Matt Richards isn't going to give that up easy, is he? But I think Holmes is the faster driver, actually, to be honest. Going to turn
quite
1.
Possibly. Matt Richards goes a little bit too deep into turn 1, however defends for turn 2.
Caps it off nicely.
Sven de Vries right on the back of Florian Guy. He's gained half a second on Jason Muscat's previous lap time, so Sven de Vries is on a really big charge at the moment. Whether Jason Muscat can hold off and win, I don't know at this point, but if Sven de Vries can get past Florian Guy pretty quickly, then he is definitely in contention for the second race win of the evening.
Well, we're only on lap 6 of 23 here. I know it's a shorter race, but it's not exactly far into it. We're almost a quarter of the way through, and the big swing point of this race is how long can Gaia keep Sven de Vries behind at this current rate? Not for very long. Looking on the outside of the hairpin, Gaia really shaking under braking, and de Vries tries to get the undercut, can't do it.
Ooh, too
Burns
much power. Too much power on the exit of that corner. Yeah, just really lit up those rear tyres. Stays in third though.
And it's going to really compromise him onto the straight. Is in the background, Jonathan Holmes re-overtakes Matt Richards already. Look at the top speed on that car for Holmes. Gaia defends into the final chicane, and Holmes has retaken 4th successfully. Good move from the Englishman.
Yeah, and closing up to the back of these two is Fran Lopez, Kevin Siggy, and of course behind those, Philip Pushka. Closing right to the back, not really making too many aggressive moves, as Matt Richards almost goes to the back of Jonathan Holmes, doesn't quite through the chicane of turn 1 and turn 2. But yeah, Philip Pushka is really being brought up to the back of this slot for P5, P4 as well. So have to keep an eye on Philip Pushka, see if he can make his way through the field.
Sven de Vries is almost pushing the other way around. Sven de Vries is almost pushing Gaia around that corner, isn't he? And right on the back of the German. I think the move is going to be inevitable. It's just about when and where for de Vries. And I imagine if it's not going to be here at turn 8 and 9.
8 and 9? 7 and 8? 8 and 9? Oh,
8 and 9. Definitely.
We'll get this at one point.
We'll get it at some point, don't worry. Whatever track map. I mean, we think it's 12 turns, not 13. What can you do, eh? Either way, Sven de Vries tries the undercut once again on Gaia. Still doesn't do it, though. He still can't make it work, and let's see. He's got a better exit, definitely, as compared to last time, but look at that gap between Gaia and Muscat. It's going up by 5/10. Here goes Sven de Vries on the outside of Gaia into the final chicane. Sven de Vries on the outside, but Gaia defends nicely, giving de Vries a taste of his own medicine.
Oh, Pushka's gotten past Siggy.
Yeah, indeed. Pushka's moved up into P7. Next up on his list will be Fran Lopez. And actually, Fran Lopez, look at him here. He's on the inside of Matt Richards. Matt Richards defends to the inside of turn 1. And, yeah, well... sorry, de Vries now. On the back of Guy. You can't keep your eyes off this battle for too long, can you? As I say, the move seems inevitable. De Vries visibly faster around every corner of the circuit in comparison to Gaia. But Gaia is holding on nicely into 4 or 6 and 7 we go. That's the right one. Into 6 and 7 we go. Gaia actually gets quite a nice exit, it must be said. And de Vries, I don't think he'll be able to have a go into 8 and 9. Indeed, no, he doesn't. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, yeah.
Oh, yeah, just count now.
Yeah, just count. Yeah,
Lopez.
it's okay, yeah.
Fran Lopez is going to make his move on Matt Richards onto the outside of the hairpin. Is he going to make it stick? No, he is not.
No,
so he's going to get a cut back there and have a nice drive down this back straight. So Fran Lopez could be looking for P4 by the end of the straight.
De Vries had a decent exit as well.
P5, sorry.
Onto the back straight we go. We can have a look at all the battles really down this back straight as Sven de Vries here looks to the outside of Florian Guy. Into the final chicane we go. Oh, Sven de Vries around the outside. Lovely move from the American. The move came there. It came hard. It came fast. And Sven de Vries has moved up into P2. Though he is now 4.2 seconds off the lead. He's got a long, long way to go before he catches up to the Maltese driver.
We'll just have to see if he can actually close that gap. It's quite although it's quite a hefty gap. You know, we've seen smaller gaps come down, larger gaps come down before. So, just keep an eye on him. It's 4.2 seconds. He can lap very quickly at this circuit, as we've seen before. It's just whether he can make that move once he has closed up. That's something that we do need to see. As Matt Richards keeps Fran Lopez behind Philip Pushka right onto the back of them now. So, I think Philip Pushka is going to be looking to push his way up through the top 10 and give himself a few more points for this championship charge.
Got to be wary as well. Kevin Siggy in the background there as well as Fran Lopez looks to the outside of turn 8. Into turn 9 we go. And Fran Lopez, what a nice drive out of that corner he had. Also, Philip Pushka, he had an even better drive out of that corner. Going onto the grass to try and get some room. He's going to pull right to the outside.
Fran Lopez. And into Pushka.
Well, and Kevin Siggy almost tabbed Matt Richards as well. And, well, Fran Lopez, he had enough space behind him to stay in P8. But that was a real shame. And it really ruined Pushka.
Geyer and De Vries.
Oh, my.
No.
Guy cuts the chicane. And here comes Jonathan Holmes. Holmes back onto the podium. Behind Kevin Siggy does indeed take Matt Richards. And so it's all chopping and changing on lap 9. Going on to lap 10 of 23. Jonathan Holmes now on the podium ahead of Geyer. Kevin Siggy 5th. Richards 6th. And Philip Pushkin not too far behind in 7th with Fran Lopez down to 8th.
Indeed, that was just a quick mistake on Fran Lopez's part that's cost him quite a lot in this race. He probably can close up to the back of Richards and possibly make a move. We've got a long way to go in this race so far. Not quite halfway, however. Quickly approaching it. As Richards down in 6th position is now going to have to start defending from Philip Pushka, who we know is very quick at this track. Current gap between the lead, 4.7 seconds. It's not really coming down.
In fact, it's gone up by 5
It's gone up, yes. So I don't know if Sven can do this. It's looking like, well, obviously at the moment his main championship contender is Jason Muscat, and obviously gaining a lot of points on him through this event so far in the first race. He's good, kind of, his hands are all good at the moment. It's Sven de Vries, in that P2 position. He's only going to lose 5 points in this race, but has gained a lot from that first. So Sven de Vries in a very nice position in that championship,
gaining 13 overall. Which would increase his lead to 16, which is the equivalent of a podium. Meanwhile, though, Matt Richards around the outside is Kevin Siggy, and Matt Richards is forced to cut the chicane, and here goes Pushka, almost pushed out wide by Richards, and he's a bit wary as Pushka, isn't he? Doesn't like breaking into this corner. I don't think he'll make a move, or will he? No, he won't. And Matt Richards almost tagging the back of Kevin Siggy as well. I think this battle is going to kick off very shortly, as if it hasn't already, to be honest.
Fran Lopez in the wall in the background. Was he actually going in the wall? That was a really masterful catch if he didn't.
Let's have a look. What turn?
Turn 2. That's exit turn 2.
He did not hit the wall.
Very good catch. Also, the gap between the lead, 4.1 seconds now. So it is coming down half a second now, but it might go back up again another half second as Florian Guy is right at the back of Jonathan Holmes. So he might be looking for another move down the back straight, but we know Jonathan Holmes has got a nice top speed on that Multiforce at the moment. Looking for a podium. I think the first podium for Multiforce this season.
Not the first legitimate podium. I believe Menno Klont got a podium somewhere in the year through a penalty.
Well, I could look this up.
Go for it. While I commentate on Geyer coming onto the back straight, he's got the slipstream of Holmes, but as we say, Holmes has got a pretty good top line speed himself. Heading into the chicane, Holmes stays ahead, but behind this, Kevin Siggy defends off Pushka and Matt Richards into the final chicane. Matt Richards able to hold on to P6, and Pushka forced to remain in P7. Heading into turn 1 we go, though. Will Pushka make a move? No, Richards! Wow, I am surprised that Siggy was not tapped round by that. That was extremely close. And Siggy's able to run off a bit now. Got a great drive out of turn 2, and Matt Richards under all sorts of pressure from the German Philip Pushka. Though Pushka took turn 3 a bit badly there, and through turn 4, Matt Richards got the advantage.
Indeed, I have also looked it up. It would not be Multiforce's first podium of the year, because Menno Klont did take a podium when Sven de Vries got that penalty in China. So this will be the first. The first race they've actually got a podium. Yes, as Philip Pushka's straight past Matt Richards
and cuts him off nicely on the turn 9 as well. Good move.
Good move, especially in that corner. That chicane is quite a difficult one to make a move. I think it's actually one of the widest chicanes on this track, but it's probably the most difficult to make a move on, just because of the way it is.
That said, though, Pushka is now going to be under threat from Matt Richards on the slipstream, and as we've seen, Pushka doesn't seem to be doing much in the way of good straight line speed. Matt Richards, he looks to the outside, but Pushka is able to defend nicely, actually. And so Pushka retains P6, and Matt Richards sells for P7.
Ari Nieminen from pole position is now down in 15th position. He's had to spin out of the hairpin, so down in 15th. Not a particularly good day for Ari Nieminen in his second race, over the first race obviously working very well. Still, for Mojeric, both cars within the points at this moment in time. 3.5 seconds is the gap between the lead. And with 11 laps to go, can Sven de Vries close that gap down and fight Jason Muscat for the win for the fourth, fifth time this year? Those two have been fighting for a large number of wins this season.
Bahrain comes to mind, China comes to mind, when we thought Sven de Vries had stolen poor Jason Muscat's first win of the season, when in fact it turned out that he'd later give that win back due to a penalty, and then Jason Muscat went on to, of course, win race 2 in China anyway. Also, shout out to Emmanuel Gaxella from P26 on the grid, now in P11. Great comeback drive from the Romanian.
Yeah, I said he's going to be one that you have to look out for, and not doing anything this time. He's done a fantastic job to get that towards the top 10. He's got 4 seconds until Patrick Gatewood, and then that would actually put him inside the top 10 from 26th on the grid. Impressive stuff at the moment from the Storm Racing driver, especially as we've only just passed the halfway point in the race as Jason Muscat crossed the line to finish lap 13, 10 to go. 2.9. It's about 4 to 6 tenths a second per lap. And quick maths, James, usually is wrong, Lewis, but that would mean that Sven de Vries would be onto the back of Jason Muscat before the end of the race. Indeed, I do like quick maths, James, so it is quite hilarious. But yeah, no, looking at the statistics, especially when Sven de Vries gets into that slipstream and closes up down the back straight by a substantial margin, then potentially Sven de Vries will be on the back. But it seems to change. It's gone up a 10 through the first sector as Jason Muscat goes through 10, 8 and 9 a little bit mediocrely. 3 and 4. Yes, Florian Guy has gotten past Jonathan Holmes back into the podium position. That
was a nice move into turn 8 as well, actually. On the inside of turn 8, got through. Nicely done from the German. But Jono Holmes, how many times do we have to repeat it this event? He's got a nice top straight line speed. Although his exit of turn 10 was not that good, actually. And I fear he might be a little bit far out of the slipstream to make any impression.
Sandeep Chodra in front has lost his front wing. He will be entering the pit lane immediately.
And Gaia stays ahead. So Gaia onto the podium once again for Simcraft. Doing well as the German ahead of Jonathan Holmes, who's doing equally as well in 4th. A great debut for the Englishman. As if things stay as they are, Kevin Siggy P5, good recovery drive. That rhymes, but he's got Philip Pushka behind him. Mushka. I'm sure he's going to be saying to himself.
No idea where you're going with that one, but sure.
Mush, you know.
Yeah. Sorry, I won't repeat the phrase from the previous race. Fran Lopez is Fran Lopez passed Matt Richards, and he's looking to move himself up towards the back of Philip Pushka. I don't think he's got a pace advantage on Pushka, but it seems like over the evening he's actually had a pace advantage on his teammate though, so quite possibly could move himself towards top 5. Could Fran Lopez.
Also, shout out to Roy Verzil. I think he was a bit robbed early in this race because he had to slow down because Ari Neiman was, spinning in front of him. But he's remained in P9. And if things continue as they are, as he goes a little bit wide to turn 8 there. But that would be a double top 10 for someone who I would class as one of Formula Challenge's most inconsistent runners. And that's a really good achievement, These are long races.
Would be a great drive from him if he can do so, as across the line to finish the 15th lap. I'm wondering what the gap's going to be between Muscat and De Vries. I think it's going to be about 2.8 again, 2.6. So it's come down 3/10 in that lap. It's not coming down fast enough.
No. Jason Muscat.
Santiago Nies has gotten past Mike Bell, down in 13 to 14.
Just noticed that. And Jason Muscat being held up massively by Thomas Jacobs. That's a bit unfortunate, really. Jacobs caught out wrong place, wrong time. But no doubt that would not have helped Jason Muscat. Look at all the trap he's got to traverse here. Next up is the Scuderia Basilia of Yuri Ogiano, who gets out of the way nicely, actually. But look, he's just had to traverse 3 cars, all of which Sven de Vries will have to traverse himself. The gap now 2.1 seconds, but I'd imagine that won't... Well, they'll extend a little bit, because, Sven de Vries... Well, he could use them to his advantage. He could try and get the slipstream off some of them. But I'm pretty sure he must get held up, surely, into the chicane.
Quite possibly, unless he gets past both of them on this straight. I heard that Yuri Argiano crashed into his teammate Mickey Akkonen earlier on in the race, so if it was the other way round or whatever. That's Poco received from team boss David Young. 1.8 seconds was the gap through that second. That's how much Jason Muscat's been held up. Almost half a second. As down to that final chicane, Sven de Vries maybe getting there. Oh,
that was a good dive out the way. Philip Pushka's past Kevin Siggy. Oh, and there's contact as well into the final chicane. Well, that was a bit rude.
Matt Richards getting some air.
Some sick air, bro.
Some sick air. See, I was going to say that, but I was like, I've had some really stupid things said in these broadcasts recently. I think I'll live with my today's topping.
Let me relieve you of the stupid comments.
Yeah,
sick air, bro.
It's been my theme throughout through this year of just stupidest comment within Supercup broadcast.
Hipster Lewis.
Yeah, which is it's quite impressive considering who I'm comparing against.
Indeed, but hey, 1.7 seconds is the gap now. That is starting to work its way down, but the lap counter doesn't lie, and we're on lap 17 of 23 here. About at the end of this lap, it'll be 6 to go, and that is not a lot of time. The gap's actually increased back up to 1.9 seconds. So Jason Muscat, I wonder whether he's holding a bit back here, just keeping some reserves in the tank, maybe saving his tyres a bit to reopen the gap when he feels it's necessary.
There's something about reopening the gap when necessary and just running around at a pace that you're comfortable at. It's important to not, especially when you've got a decent lead and it's not going to come down too much, as it's going to come down to 1.9. It's still 1.9. But Muscat, it's lapping at a place where you're comfortable. If you're comfortable doing 21s, then that's great. If you're comfortable doing 20s, then that's even better. But you've got to lap where you're comfortable. Something that I've learned.
Pushka!
From Pushka.
He's round.
Oh, he is.
And
he's going to drop a position to Matt Richards.
Yep, he was right on the back of Kevin Siggy, and he just lost it on his own, and so he loses 2 positions.
Brandon Warren out of the race.
And Matt Richards, as Brandon Warren retires, unfortunately, along with Terence Gretsch, David Tapper, and Christoph Lichtenstein. Pushka pushing too hard, unfortunately, and that's some good points lost.
Yeah, it was a prime example right there. You can't push too hard. You've got to push where you're comfortable because that's just the important thing. It's all about lapping consistently, not necessarily doing one really good lap here and then doing a couple of mediocre ones. It's lapping. That consistency with your lap times is what's really, really important.
At the end of this lap, it'll be 5 to go. Over the course of this lap, the gap has come down 0.2 to 1.7. We will know the scale of Sven de Vries's challenge once they cross the line, though. Jason Muscat making use of the slipstream provided by Mike Schroten. He crosses the line, and the gap is 1.6. So that is an average, Lewis, of almost 0.3 per lap, which we have seen Sven de Vries do.
It just changes. It keeps going up. 1/10 here, 0.3 here, 0.5 here, 1/10 there. No gain. Couple of tenths in the area of Jason Muscat. It's still chopping and changing. This is something that could come down to the final lap of the second race here in Canada. So we've got to keep an eye on the top 2, just to see if they do actually close up.
I tell you what, I can't see any other close battles, to be honest. Gagzella and Gatewood are pretty close for 10th and 11th, but not close enough to make a move, and everyone else is very split out, so we'll watch with interest here. Jason Muscat and Sven de Vries. It's been, as you say, it's been a real championship rivalry and camaraderie between the two of them. They always seem to find themselves in a battle of their own at points within this championship. We've seen it at Bahrain, we saw it in China, and we're seeing it here again in Canada, and Jason Muscat's been pretty good this lap. He's been able to hold the gap at 1.6, but I think Sven de Vries got a slightly better exit out of turn 10, and Jason Muscat had an equally good exit through final turns 11 and 12. The gap though has come down by 1/10. As I said, that extra little bit of oomph that Sven de Vries had through turn 10, providing him with a good extra 10th on Muscat, but as we say, we're really looking at 0.3 upwards per lap. And Sven de Vries only has 4 more to do this now.
Yeah, he's going to close up into that slipstream. That's going to give him a nice advantage down that back straight. Also, they're coming up to the back of Mikko Jakinen for Scuderia Basilia. Another back marker. He should be able to get out of the way quite effectively into just going a little bit deep in the hairpin, letting the 2 through. I think Holmes has dropped off the back of the guy. As you say, these gaps are all they're just separating a little bit, and easing out, and the only one that's closing up is this top two battle between Muscat and De Vries. I don't think
we have a battle.
Oh, do we? Wow.
Gatewood and Gaxella.
Wow. Okay, let's have a look. P11, P10.
Gaxella caught up a good 5/10 or so over the last lap, and he's been on the right charge, has the Romanian, from P26 through to P11. But I'm pretty sure he would like to end the evening on a high, and a top 10 would be just the right way to go about it. Heading into the hairpin we go. And Gatewood stays ahead nicely, but Gaxella will have the slipstream. He tries the undercut as well, gets actually a much better exit.
Ooh.
Pardon me. Out to turn 10, and he's right on the back of the American. And heading down the casino straight. Gaxella pulls in to get a bit more slipstream. He now pulls to the inside of Gatewood. And will he have a lunge into turn 11? Yes, he will. Oh, Gatewood holds on around the outside. Great defense from the American. He wants that top 10 himself. But look at that gap between De Vries and Muscat. It's 1.1 now. But we look to Gaxella into turn 1. Nothing doing still. Gatewood doing some nice defensive driving here. But De Vries is starting to pile on the pressure as well.
Indeed. I'm just keeping an eye on where Miki Häkkinen is. He's still in front of them. As I say, they're closing up to the hairpin this time, so maybe Miki Häkkinen can just go a little bit deep. That gap did come down to 1.1 seconds. It did close
down
up
to
a lot as Miki
8/10
Häkkinen
now.
does go down. He probably cost a little bit of time, but this means that Muscat, that was a little bit of a slide out of the hairpin from De Vries. But De Vries is going to be in this slipstream now. He's going to be closing up all the way down the straight. We've got 2 laps to go after the completion of this, so it's going to be very close for the final 2 laps between these two.
Meanwhile, Gatewood's doing a really amicable job here, doing so well to hold off the advances of Gaxella, the Romanian. But into the final hairpin we go. Oh, not into the final hairpin, into the hairpin we go. They're switching side by side, but Gaxella, he lights up the tyres on the rear though. Gatewood's going to have a much better exit, and he's probably going to get Gaxella down the casino straight due to better straight on speed. Mind you though, look at the gap between De Vries and Muscat. Let's look at that now. The gap has decreased exponentially to 0.4 of a second. I would look to Gaxella and Gatewood. I'll just give you an update here.
Yep,
right, Gaxella has absolutely taken that position now. But look at De Vries, 0.2 of a second. He's piling on the pressure. He's done this technique so many times this year. Just keep it on the wicker, save the tyres a bit, and then last few laps, gun it. And he has done it once again. In fact, he's looking on the outside of Muscat into turn 8, and I wonder whether Muscat can hold on here, because De Vries is looking ultimate in his pace.
Yeah, I mean, here he goes. He's going to have a look on the outside. This is going to give him a good drive down towards that chicane, if he can get it off properly. A little bit of a slide out of the corner from Muscat. Lit up the rears a bit too much, as De Vries has already taken that lead. Muscat will dive into that slipstream and try what Philip Pushka couldn't do in the first race, and actually get past De Vries into that final chicane.
In we go, and De Vries knows how to defend that. We already know that. Jason's going to have to get creative though, I think. Otherwise, we'll have yet another round of this championship where the race 1 winner wins in race 2. Even though De Vries started P10, it has not stopped the ultimate charge which has occurred during this race.
Yeah, final lap of the race we are currently on. Jason Muscat staying closing up a little bit in the 3-4 chicane, but he's just dropping off. The traction doesn't seem so good on the Edinis. But this is probably going to come down to that final straight if Muscat can just stay close. That's all he needs to do, is stay close to the back of that satellite racing car.
His exit wasn't so good. Out of 7 and heading into 8 and 9 now. Yeah, he needs to stay there. He needs a supreme exit. He just needs the best exit of his sim racing career to be able to catch up to the back of De Vries. Here we go. He tucks up nicely into his rear wing. Really nicely. And he lights up just a bit. I wonder whether he can get him though. I wonder whether he's got the wings. I think De Vries may just have this actually. Yeah, Jason Muscat's a bit far back, and it's going to need a mistake from De Vries to be able to get him into the final chicane. Here we go. Through the chicane we go. Jason Muscat pushing as hard as he can, but he's not going to be able to do it. Sven De Vries, for the second time this evening, takes the win.
Oh, guys, missed the chicane.
Huh?
Guys, missed the chicane.
Oh, Gaia.
Holmes is going to get it.
Oh, Holmes. On his debut, Holmes takes a podium. Wonderful stuff from the Englishman, and Gaia misses out. Kevin Siggy P5.
Oh, Matt Richards has spun in the chicane as well.
Oh, where's Lopez? Oh, Lopez and Richards, they've had it coming together. So CEV5, Pushka P6 after all of that. Unbelievable. Lopez P7, Verzil P8, wonderful stuff. Gagzella comes home P9, and Richards is going to be under pressure from Gatewood. Oh, Gatewood's going to nick it at the last. Oh, Gatewood takes P10. Wonderful stuff from Gatewood. He does get his P10. Wonderful. Richards P11 after messing up the final corner. Then it's McNaughton P12. Our pole sitter, Harry Newman, comes home P13. It'll be Mike Bell to make it a double Mazurek point score. And Santiago Niza then takes the final point for Street Fighter in what was ultimately an awful round for Street Fighter. Only 1 point scored, which was Niza. But wow, what a race that was. And De Vries really stamping his authority on this championship now.
Yeah, he's shown that he is the man to take this championship. Every track, the advantage seems to change as to who can do it. But from that pole position that Sven de Vries took, he's not really looked too far back this evening. He's just had the pace advantage to take yet another win. Obviously winning the 2 back in Monte Carlo. He brings that here to Montreal, wins 2 more. I think it's the first time this season that we've had 4 race wins in a row from from any driver, and that's his 6th race win of the season. He is really stamping his authority, almost winning half of the races this season so far.
He won both the races in Malaysia. He won race 1 in Monaco, and
of course,
both races here. So that is not 6 but 5 race wins, because remember Florian Gaia won race 2.
It's okay. It gets away from me sometimes.
Yes, but yeah, it's nevertheless a great form is Sven de Vries, and for someone who isn't particularly interested in winning a championship, he's just here to have fun. He's certainly going about winning the championship in the right way and keeping Satellite in that fight for P2.
Yeah, he's really doing a fantastic job for Satellite Racing, and he's just constantly comes into a round and does a great job and impresses us in such a way that he's putting himself in such a good position in this championship charge. And it doesn't look like anyone at this point can stop him, obviously, with what happened to Muscat in the first race. That's disadvantaged him quite heavily in this championship. And Kantonen obviously dropping off the back with the DNF and the DNS of the evening. And it's kind of all falling apart for Adonis and the drivers. Aspect of things, and the constructors there looking in such a dominant way, but driver-wise, it's looking like it's getting away from them. But a long way to go in this championship. No one can really be counted out at the moment.
Absolutely not. And also, I mean, just to give you an idea of how important Sven's 2 wins are here, we were saying that it was almost inevitable that Simcraft would take P2 away from them in the Teams Championship. In fact, Satellite have pulled away. 51 points scored for Satellite this evening, with 1 extra point from Brandon Warren. Only 38 scored by Simcraft, and only 27 scored by Adonis Engineering. So the gap that we thought was invincible to Adonis Engineering, all of a sudden, not looking so invincible anymore, is it?
Indeed. We'll just have to keep an eye on exactly what's going on over the final 10 rounds of the championship. Not quite halfway yet, but quickly approaching that point.
Alright then, we have interviews. And I think it is best to start with our double race winner for the second... So our second... Or I should rather say you've had 2 double race wins now, Sven. Full 50 points. We were coming into this evening, and as I was saying just before you came in, we thought Simcraft was definitely going to overtake Satellite. And we thought the event would be quite open. You come in, you set the fastest lap we have seen in Supercup in Canada in qualifying, taking pole position. You take the race 1 win, you take the race 2 win, and not only have you extended your gap to Jason Muscat by 13 points, but you've also been able to catch up to Adonis Engineering and pull away from Simcraft in the Teams Championship. It couldn't have been a better day for you, really.
So that's pretty good when you say it like that.
Yeah.
Everything went really well. Had a good set once again, so thanks to Root for that. It really helped me. And again, race 1 was definitely not easy. I had to defend almost the entire race from Philip. It was, I think we were about equal speed, and the slipstream, killed me on the straights. But I managed to defend him, and kind of reminded me of the WSS with Eric Strawn. Sure as hell wasn't going to let that happen again. Lose the race in the last lap. So that went very well. Then the second race was, I already noticed Jason on P2, and I figured he'd take P1 almost instantly. So I was just, seeing how fast I could cut through the field and check how fast I could catch up to Jason, which didn't go as fast as I'd hoped. But once there, the straight line speed was very good, so didn't have too much trouble getting around there.
I think we've really just talked over these points before. As I said, I've already interviewed over the sort of battle with Eric Strada. I was really, talking about it, remembering it in response, and I guess you were lucky in the sense that Philip Pushka was so bad on the brakes, he couldn't really get a nip at you like Eric Strada could.
Exactly.
But, well, we've asked you all these questions before about, so on, and how the race went. Let's actually ask you about next track. We're going to, well, I don't know, it's either the Austria Ring, we got Red Bull Ring, A1 Ring, whatever you want to call it. Very different track, very flowy track, more about the downforce than the straight line speed. Is it a track that you particularly enjoy? Is it a track that you're looking forward to? Or is it just another track on the calendar which you'll just do your best at?
Well, the upcoming races are definitely the ones that are going to be more of my favorites. I mean, Canada and Monaco, Spain, China, whatever all the races we had so far aren't particularly high on my top favorite track list. So Austria is definitely going to be good. Silverstone is going to be good. Basically, the next couple of races are definitely high up on my list of favorite tracks. So I hope to do well there.
I would be very fearful if you were that good in Canada and you didn't even like the track. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Sven.
Thank you.
Well done on your 2 race wins, and we'll see you next time in Austria. And then we also have Philip Pushka here today. Missed out on Monaco, unfortunately, but what a way to return. A P2, nipping at the heels of Sven de Vries all the way. A P6 in race 2 after getting a little bit lucky after a spin. But I'd like to just go back to race 1. I mean, we were seeing you nipping at the heels of de Vries, but you could never get that moving, and we were wondering whether you were having braking problems, perhaps, or whether it was just the way the setup worked. How was the race from your point of view, and why were you not able to get to Vries in the end?
Yeah, it wasn't really the point of the brakes. I think even gained much in the hairpin on the brakes on him. So yeah, it was more like being cautious, and I didn't want to take him out, and I was happy with P2 anyway. So I thought he had more top speed than me. So yeah. It would have been very risky to try to actually get past, and yeah.
I must ask if your championship aims have changed slightly. You were leaving the flyaway races, you were definitely part of the foursome which were making up the title charge for the Drivers' Championship. Sven has had a mighty round, and you've fallen behind another 20 points to the extent where you're near enough about 20 points away from being 100 points off the lead. What are the sort of aims here? Because PB's been there or thereabouts, but not really fighting for the title, and now you're starting to foil off the boil again. Is it all just about having fun now, or is there still certain aims which you'd like to achieve this season?
Yeah, I don't really have any aims at the moment, and I didn't really have anyone at the start of the season. So yeah, it's about race to race, seeing what I can achieve pace-wise, and this round it was really good. The pace was there, but race 1 was clean. Race 2 was not really clean. I mean, the start was not. The getaway was okay, but I made a mistake and hit I think a PSR car, and later on I spun, and then even in the last chicane I had an incident with the car. So yeah, not really a race I enjoyed, but yeah.
You still got points in the podium from the evening. It's certainly nothing to be ashamed about. And thank you for joining us, Philip. Well done on your results. And well, Lewis, that was much more entertaining than last year's Singular Race in Canada. I can tell you that for certain now. But we've ended up in a situation where Sven de Vries is looking dominant. He is looking decidedly in control of this championship. And as we've heard from him, this wasn't even his favourite track. He's going into his favourite tracks now. Do you think we're going to expect very much the same from him? Maybe more dominance? Or do you think other drivers can perhaps fight back? Because other drivers here in the title race didn't exactly have the best of times themselves.
Well, sometimes just because it's your favourite track doesn't mean you're going to go well there. That's something that people quite easily forget. There's plenty of tracks in this calendar that I enjoy, but am absolutely rubbish at. I don't actually particularly enjoy driving Monaco that much. It's the only track that I've had okay pace on. So to state it one way or the other, it's quite hard to tell. Really, whether someone's actually going to be really quick from round to round, because this championship's been chopping and changing throughout all of the rounds we've had. Someone's been top dog in this round, and the other one, someone else has jumped up here, someone else has jumped up there. It's chopped and changed all throughout the championship. So to state it either way, it's not looking like it's going to be. It's looking like it could be quite an easy run for Sven for the championship, but that we're not halfway through the season yet, and anyone can finding that magical thing in the setup like Giuseppe Ranieri did last year, and then just powering in the laps and doing a great job. It can change up all the time. Obviously, as a fact that I brought up to you last season, at this point last year, Giuseppe Ranieri hadn't even taken his first win yet. So he's anyone can pop up and just start a level of dominance from now to the end of the season. You can't really predict either way.
It's a fair point made, and one that we'll certainly look forward to exploring. If you're interested in more sim racing action, then tomorrow make sure to join Simon Smith as he takes you through the Canadian Grand Prix. There may very well be rain in there, so certainly worth watching. Then on Monday comes the Russian International Touring Cup, an ADM Raceway. That's going to be a really, really weird one. Then we've got the Austrian Sports Series next Wednesday, and the whole career ladder starts all over again the week after. So make sure to join us for all those wonderful sim racing events. I've been James Kirk. He's been Lewis McGlade. Big thanks to our cameraman for this evening. Once again, Dave Carr-Smith. After the feature race next time in Austria, we're going to be halfway through the season. Are you going to miss it? I certainly hope not. So make sure to join us then in 2 weeks. From all of us here, it's a very warm goodbye.